All right, San Diego, Southern California, what's going on? This is hour one, and John Schaefer. Sammy Long is going to hang out until 3 p.m., so appreciate that, Sammy, as he has throughout the course of the last couple of weeks. A lot to react to here today. We have a good show lined up for you until 6 p.m. You are going to hear from one of the better baseball analysts out there, Mike Faren, MLB Network Radio, his reaction to, obviously, Kyle Tucker to the Dodgers, which we're going to spend a lot of time on here in this first hour of the show and throughout the course of the day. And then, of course, Bo Bichette as well to the New York Mets. I want to throw the phone line out there because I do want to hear from Padres fans and baseball fans today. So just jot this number down if you don't have it. You can always put it in your phone, by the way, for giveaways as well. But 877-767-4760 is the phone number if you want to weigh in on what we're about to talk about. 877-767-4760. Or if you just want to text us because you're at work or can't call in, you can always text us 70470. Start your message with the word team. Now, I know you guys were talking about this earlier. And obviously, the initial reaction is going to be when you're in San Diego and you're a Padres fan and you're trying to get over the hump and you're trying to do something the franchise has never done in 50 plus years, is the initial reaction when the Dodgers go out and do it again and again and again. The Otanis, the Yamamotos, and now the Kyle Tuckers is like, how can we keep up with this? And then like the question of, is it bad for baseball inherently comes up. Like you're either a Dodger fan or you're the rest of baseball. And you're like, is this bad for baseball? And we can weigh this back and forth, Sammy. But my first blush reaction may actually surprise some people, but I've always been honest with baseball fans in San Diego. I don't think it's inherently bad for the sport. And some people might be like, are you serious, John? You don't think what the Dodgers are doing with spending is bad for the sport? And I would just go back to like the point that there's always going to be a dominant player in professional sports. Like this isn't all cute and fun. Like you're trying to win at all costs, essentially. And, is Ohio State football bad for college football because they go above and beyond? Is, were the Miami Heat bad for basketball and they formed the Big Three? And were the New York Yankees bad for baseball in the 1990s when they won 4 or 5? So, like, I get it. Is it discouraging? Yeah, it is to some extent. But do I think that the Dodgers cannot be beat because they added Kyle Tucker? No, it's not how I feel. Do I think they couldn't be beat with Shohei Ohtani? No. It's just, it feels like it's the rich getting richer, and I don't know who you really want to blame. But for me, it probably doesn't start with the Dodgers. It's more just like the state of the game.
Well, that's I think where people are misplacing their blame. And I get it. If you're a Padre fan, you hate the Dodgers, and it's easy to attack the Dodgers going, of course they're getting Kyle Tucker. Yeah. Of course, Tanner Scott blows 13 saves last year. They go sign Edwin Diaz, other than Mason Miller, the best closer in baseball. So you understand the frustration. They don't get punished. The Dodgers don't get punished when one of their signings don't come through. Sure. Michael Conforto didn't come through last year. Kirby Yates didn't come through. And yet they ended up winning a World Series, and it still comes through. I agree with your point about the whole dynasty thing and everyone hating a team. To what you said, you're either a Dodger fan or you hate the Dodgers. There's not really too many people that aren't Dodger fans that are like, yeah, I'm cool with the Dodgers winning another World Series. People hated the Kansas City Chiefs when they were winning everything.
LeBron,
the
Warriors,
right? Yeah. The Patriots going back a ways, the Lakers in the early 2000s. Like it was a very, if your team is out of it, it kind of became a communal thing of everyone's rooting against the Dodgers. And baseball and hockey are weird because you could have a couple really hot pitchers, just like the Diamondbacks a few years ago. That team had no business being in the World Series, but Gallen and Kelly went on a heater and went all the way there. We've seen this in hockey where there's a hot goalie
stands on his head.
Right. And it's just like they're not very talented, but they can get there. So is it just automatic the Dodgers winning the World Series? No. I understand the frustration, and I agree again with what you said. People get mad at the Dodgers. I think that's wrong. It's like, what is Andrew Friedman supposed to do? Not sign good players? Rob Manfred, there's obviously a problem. There should be a salary cap in baseball. This has been maligned for years. And the MLB Players Association, which is one of the most powerful in all of sports because it's such a star-driven league. Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen are not bigger than the NFL. So the players union in the NFL doesn't have as much power than Major League Baseball, where the sport is built on Shohei Ohtani and Fernando Tatis Jr. and Bryce Harper. So it's a big collection of things. Obviously, it's tough as a fan of the NOS and watching this Padre team, like watching them have to go up against this juggernaut. But I guess everyone in the league is going to be doing it next year.
Look at it this way, and I mean, it's not too listen. There's some things, and I made this point very clear when the Dodgers signed Shohei Ohtani. I didn't have any issue with them signing Ohtani. The deferrals to me, which again are not outside the rules, they're within the rules of the current collectively bargained agreement. That to me is where it's gone a little far, but that's probably for the next CBA. Dodgers have over $1 billion of deferral. If you combine every other team's deferral total, it doesn't reach what the Dodgers have done. So that to me maybe is a loophole that should be closed to some extent. That's neither here nor there. This is what I would say. This is my point. In a sport like baseball that is so different than basketball, did the Dodgers win the World Series in 2024 because of their offseason spending heading into 2024? Or did they win the World Series because other teams failed to capitalize? Look no further than the San Diego Padres in 2024 with a 2-1 lead at home. Is that because of the Dodgers spending prowess? Or is that a failure on the Padres' part to close out that series? They were inept for 20-something innings and didn't score a run. And you can't put that on spending. Now fast forward a year. And the Dodgers literally ultimately win a World Series because of a guy that had not homered in forever.
Miguel Rojas, Andy Pajes, Kike Hernandez.
The play at the plate, obviously, that was like, 1 inch the other way, and the Blue Jays are winning the World Series. So now listen, the Dodgers are already in the World Series, and they're going to put themselves in a position where, the more you get to the postseason with that type of roster, you've got a decent shot, make no mistake, to win the World Series or to be in it. But do I think because they signed Kyle Tucker, they're not going to win 9 of the next 10 World Series? I don't. I mean, is it possible they win the World Series again in 2026? Absolutely. If I was choosing Dodgers or Field, knowing how the sport works, it's not like the Dodgers have a 50% chance of winning the World Series. Even a 20% chance is an incredibly high percentage chance to win the World Series. So listen, is it frustrating? Of course it is. But when you only compare yourself to the Dodgers, and I've made this mistake before, and like Jim will usually make the point, like you can't compare yourself to the Dodgers. You just got to do your job. It's like you go to the gym. You can't lift 315, dude. Be happy that you can lift 180. Like,
right.
When you start comparing yourself to someone else, then there's automatically like an inferiority complex. Like, you can't do it. And in a sport like baseball, as crazy as it sounds, you have a $400 million payroll against an $80 million payroll. There's no guarantee the team that's outspent the other is going to win. Look no further than the Mets. Or other teams that have misspent money. But I get the frustration, but I'm not here to say don't watch in 2026 because the Dodgers have Kyle Tucker.
Right. I think it's going to draw even higher ratings. Like it's just people are going to be hate watching the Dodgers, and people are don't like the team. Obviously, they have advantages. We know Major League Baseball is a flawed system, that New York and Los Angeles and these markets can just spend more money. But I think where it hurts even more is the Padres spend money. There's a misconception the Padres don't spend money. The Padres spend money. The problem, though, is what do we talk about with the Padres? Starting pitching needs to be better, and the stars have to show up. And we honestly, I think, like personally, and I know Fletch, and I don't know about the rest of San Diego. I know last year during the playoffs or during the stretch run, it was hard. It was easy to blame a guy like Freddie Fermin or some guys at the back end of the order going, where's the production? But at the end of the day, it was Bogarts not coming through. It was Machado not coming through. And guys like that are getting paid. It's just the Padres can't go spend more money after spending those guys. Whereas the Dodgers, to the point of Tanner Scott was awful. Tanner Scott was like a detriment to the Dodgers last year, to the point where he couldn't even play. Then you go get the star closer to for this year.
Just double down.
Down.
One bad move is not going to set them back and impact their future, because they can just basically cast it aside as bad debt. Like the Dodgers payroll is going to be over $400 million. Now, what I would say that, and the Kyle Tucker deal, I mean, you look at it on its face, you're like, are you serious? 4 years, $240 million. This is the highest AAV in baseball history is Kyle Tucker. Like, great player, but the greatest player?
Right,
no,
he's
not the greatest player in baseball. He is a great, dynamic offensive player. And with the luxury taxes, they're going to be paying basically $100 million for this player. I would say, to counter that argument, the New York Mets were second in payroll last year in baseball and didn't even make the postseason. I've seen within this decade under Peter Seidler, the Padres at one point either reached second or third in overall spending in the sport. And we widely credited them for their willingness to spend. So my point is this: the reason I can't go all in and be like, this is absurd, how dare they, the sport is ruined forever. The reason I can't do that is I celebrated it when the Padres did it 4 years ago under Peter Seidler, and I would celebrate it again. Now, unfortunately, The Padres television situation is unlike the Dodgers. Basically, all TV situations are unlike the Dodgers. And it doesn't allow the Padres to go down that path year in and year out. But I'll be honest with you, if the Padres signed Kyle Tucker yesterday, my first reaction wouldn't be, oh, that sucks for the rest of baseball that the Padres were able to sign Kyle Tucker and nobody. It's just like when it benefits you, it's all good. So when it doesn't benefit you, I can't sit here and be like, this is the worst thing in the history of the sport.
It is such a tricky situation. It's just like where, I don't know. It's hard because to that point, like look at the Dodgers last season. When to be fair to the Dodgers, they had 5 big offseason acquisitions: Kirby Yates, Tanner Scott, Michael Conforto. All 3 of them didn't play in the postseason. Roki Sasaki was a moot point because they couldn't pay him more money. That was just, they won over his services. Yep. Blake Snell was obviously a valid. He was a major catalyst for why they won the World Series. I think why it's hard is that the Dodgers not only have the most amount of money to spend, they also have the most amount of money to spend on a farm system. And that goes into the fact that the Dodgers constantly have guys coming up they have 3 outfielders in their top 10 right now who they don't even know what to do with because they have so many outfielders. Right. They're all blocked. It's like, what are you taking? Teoscar out or Kyle Tucker or like all these players? It's hard. The repercussions for the Padres, but I'm with you. I feel like people are misplacing blame at the Dodgers, and I get it's frustrating for Padre fans and Diamondback fans and Giants fans, but it's just kind of the name of the game. And until the lockout comes, until we're sitting a year from now, unfortunately, probably not having baseball, and the players' union's willing to give on a lot of this stuff, and Major League Baseball is willing to give on it, it's just kind of what it's going to be until then.
But here's the part where it's like the money alone helps. Would I prefer to have more money than less in professional sports, specifically baseball without a cap? Yes. But there isn't a direct correlation. Go look at the last 25 years in baseball in spending. And the team that spends the most has won what percentage of those World Series? I don't know the answer to it, but it's not this. It's not like 19 of the last 25 highest spenders have won the World Series.
Well, remember the Mets and the Padres were 1 and 2, and they both missed the playoffs a couple years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my point. The problem, the damning part of it from a San Diego perspective is that you hate to say this, but the job that the Dodgers have done from a front office perspective and analytically is also running circles around a lot of teams in baseball. You give a well-run organization money and you got problems. You give a poorly run organization money and they create more problems. It's like money only magnifies things.
That's a great point.
It magnifies bad spending or it magnifies good spending. The issue with the Dodgers isn't just they have money, it's they know how to spend it. And that becomes the problem. The Padres have had money before and haven't always spent it wisely. And that's your point. Dodgers have missed. They have missed on some significant spends, but they've also hit on some as well. I mean, they're not winning World Series without the Freddie Freemans and the Shohei Ohtanis and the Mookie Betts and the Blake Snells and the Yoshinobu Yamamotos.
Right, they're not even getting there. And to your point earlier about the Padres had an opportunity. What's crazy about the MLB versus like the NBA. The Kobe Shaq teams in the early 2000s when they went 16-1 in the playoffs and AI had to drop 50.
Game 1, yeah.
That team could run the same thing back. I know they ended up losing the year after, and it's like, okay, they're a couple games worse. They're still so much better than everyone. The crazy thing about the last 2 World Series for the Dodgers, the Padres, we all know very well, had a shot to close them out at Petco Park in Game 4. And then should they have beaten Toronto last year? I mean, we all thought when they were going back to Toronto.
I thought they were cooked. I thought they were cooked in Game 7. I mean, they're in the 9th inning trailing. What are the odds you're going to win a game trailing in the 9th inning?
In Game 6, if Kike doesn't catch the 1 ball, they're bringing in 2 runs. It's baseball is a funny sport like that.
All right, let's discuss this more on the other side. What do you got, Brian?
You brought up budgets for World Series winners. According to Google, 26 of the last 29 champions in the wild card era have ranked in the top half of MLB's opening day payroll, and 20 of 29 rank in the top 10. The 2 exceptions that they point out were the 03 Marlins and the 2015 Royals.
That proves my point. I mean, top 10 is not the top spender. I mean, if you only have to be in the top 10, if 20 of the last 29 have been in the top 10 and 26 of the last 29 have been in the top 15, well, good. Then put yourself in the top 10 or 15 like the Padres have to give yourself a chance. All right, Mike Faren with more reaction to this from MLB Network Radio at 2:30. We'll continue to react to it as well here until 6 on San Diego Sports 760. All right, back with you, John Schaefer, Sammy Long, Mike Faren, MLB Network Radio. I want to get his reaction to Kyle Tucker, to the Dodgers, Bo Bichette, to the Mets. Money being spent here with spring training approaching in Major League Baseball. And just the reaction of our listeners. I mean, does it change the way you feel heading into the year? Like, is it, I can't imagine somebody was like, man, I can't wait for the season, but now that Kyle Tucker signed with the Dodgers, I'm not going to watch. Like that. It's not really how competition works. And I don't know, maybe it's just like the capitalist in me, like the part of America that kind of makes it, the fact that anyone can live out, like there's this belief that anyone can live out the American dream. We're not limited in terms of our potential. And we're talking about the highest level of professional sports. What do we want to do? I'll share it all. Like I'm all for, I understand the value of parity. I think there's something to be said about the NFL in a smaller market. Green Bay, Wisconsin, a classic example. You can compete with the New York Giants. So I understand equaling the playing field from a cap perspective can be beneficial. The players are the ones that don't want the cap. It's not even the owners that are preventing the salary cap. It's the players that don't want the cap. So at the end of the day, it's big boy business. It's professional sports. We're not just going to share it all. Like this is how sports have been forever. The Yankees won every World Series in the 1920s. What were we saying about college football when Bear Bryant won every national championship? What were we saying in the 1990s about the Yankees? This is the whole point of sports. We're supposed to share the wealth as a fan. It just, I get it. I want to see the Padres win too, but that's on the Padres, just like it's on the Dodgers to do everything in their power to win. So it's a complicated conversation because I don't even know where to point the blame. If you just want to say, well, it's unfair because the Dodgers are spending so much money, was it unfair when, again, Alabama won every national championship in the 1970s?
To me, it's just the Yankees with, adjusted for inflation, pretty much. Because the Yankees did this when we were kids. It was the Yankees that, outspent everybody, and it didn't matter to where, like, you remember how big of a deal it was when Johnny Damon signed with the Yankees, because all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, he's a Red Sox, he wouldn't go sign. Right. And then he cut his hair and everything else. So to me, this is just the new Yankees, and I say adjusted for inflation just because the money changed, but of course all the deferrals and everything else.
Well, and to the point you guys are both making about the money, like if that's where we're at, if it's like, and listen, you do whatever you want to do. If you're like, you know what, I don't want to watch baseball because I think the Dodgers are too overpowered, that's fine. Well, then I doubt you're watching college basketball or college football as well, because LSU is paying with Lane Kiffin $25 to $30 million on their roster alone. Very few other colleges in college football to have literally the money to do that. Like their roster wouldn't even total a fifth at that. So I see where people are coming from, and I see the frustration. Again, the Dodgers, they're just playing a different tax bracket, and I get that they don't really get punished for when their players don't play well. But to your point, if we remember, I remember the Dodgers were playing the Phillies early in the year, and a reporter asked Bryce Harper and asked him about this, and he actually came to the defense of the Dodgers saying, like, listen, they put together a roster. It's our job to go beat them. And I think that's the dirty little secret is people point at Andrew Friedman and the Dodgers are spending money. If Andrew Friedman's not spending money, the Dodgers and Mark Walter are firing Andrew Friedman to get someone who will go spend the money. The Players Association, I said this earlier on with Fletch and I, not to just single out a certain player, a contract like Jake Cronenworth would never happen in a salary cap. And that's not a shot to Jake Cronenworth. It's just like players want the fact that if you're a mid-level player with some upside, you're probably getting paid a lot more than you should. It's like in the NBA, a 3-and-D player with no salary cap will get paid a lot more money than just being a superstar.
And to that point, by the way, the salary cap hasn't exactly made the NBA equitable. It's not like the salary cap has made the Memphis Grizzlies really good. Like if anything, the salary cap, honestly, there's been all ways to work around it. I mean, look at the way teams have been formulated in the last 20 years in the NBA. You've had stars gather like way more than you ever had in any other era of basketball. So again, it's an interesting conversation. I don't think we're going to get to the bottom of answering it. And by the way, I don't think a work stoppage changes it either. I don't think like, oh my gosh, they stopped it, the Dodgers' dominance is over. That's not going to happen. Their players are under contract. You can change rules moving forward. It's not going to change the way the Dodgers operate in 2027 because you have a new CBA in 2027. So there's no quick answer here. I could argue that football has it right, or baseball has it right, or basketball has it right, or the NHL has it right. But there's people that love the NFL that hate baseball. And there's people that love baseball that hate the NFL. So it's not as simple as just because baseball doesn't have a salary cap, that alone isn't a reason why everyone's turned off by the sport. They could have a salary cap. There's still going to be people that are turned off by the sport.
Well, totally to the point of like the NBA, just because there's a salary cap, the Lakers and the Knicks and the Celtics are still a destination. People aren't just flocking to the Charlotte Hornets or going to the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm with you on that.
You can still be a well-run. I mean, listen, like Indiana, Oklahoma City, like these are examples. Milwaukee in the NBA,
and they developed players. Exactly. They didn't sign players.
There's multiple ways to win. Yeah.
Well, and to your point of the lockout not solving anything, it's too late to fix it, to be honest. And, you know, if people want to like point fingers on like, oh God, who's to blame? We would have to go so far back in order to find out who's, you know, like pre-Bud Selig, and because it's going to go, wait, you know, they should have nipped this in the butt a long time ago, and they let it go. And like Sammy said, the Major League Baseball Players Union is like the most powerful players union in all of sports, and the most well-run players union in all of sports, honestly, to where it's too late now, because the union, they'll never go with it. And I think they'll just kind of argue and kind of come at an impasse with it. But yeah, I think it's something that they should have taken care of a long time ago. And now it's too late.
And by the way, it's recency bias that the Dodgers are like inevitable. And we've never seen this before. When the Celtics won 11 championships in 13 years, and the Yankees won every championship in the 20s and the 50s, and Alabama and Ohio State have dominated one. You know, it's just like there's always going to be dynasties in sports. This isn't the first, and it's certainly not going to be the last across all sports. Mike Faren, his perspective from MLB Network Radio on the other side. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by eBay. We had a whole bunch of signings in Major League Baseball last night and this morning. Kyle Tucker, of course, signed with the Dodgers to a 4-year, $240 million deal. Bo Bichette and the Mets agreed to a 3-year, $126 million deal. And JT Realmuto agreed to stay with the Phillies on a 3-year, $45 million deal. Tomorrow night, the Aztecs are back home to take on New Mexico. Our pregame coverage begins at 4 o'clock. John will have the tip after 5. And Sunday afternoon, we have the NFL divisional round here on San Diego Sports 760 when the Rams take on the Bears. Pregame starts at 2:30. Kick is around 3:30. Imagine what you can find on eBay, like that rare hologram trading card that you've become totally obsessed with, shiny like the designer handbag of your dreams. eBay has it. They even have the perfect parts that will fit your car. Millions of finds, each with a story. eBay.
All right, I'm excited to get the perspective of Mike Faren on the state of Major League Baseball after the Kyle Tucker news broke yesterday, and there's been more news, obviously, in baseball free agency over the course of the last 24 hours as well. Before we get there, though, Mike, I don't think I've told you this. I don't think we've had you on since. Did you know, it was Jon and Jim for the last 4 years. Do you know Jim is MIA? Jim moved to Philadelphia.
Yeah, I heard that Jim left. I actually saw some of what he said in his goodbye, but I didn't fully know. But I'm bummed. I love Jim. I'm sad that he's gone, but I hope everything is good with him and his wife, and that they enjoy Philadelphia.
You're the one.
JT Realmuto's back. So
yeah, Realmuto's back, and again, you're the one that is going to miss Jim. I'm kidding. All right, so John Schaefer, Sammy Long is with me today. Mike Faren, MLB Network Radio, with us right now on San Diego Sports 760. I haven't heard your perspective on this, so I'm just curious. I guess the 30,000-foot question, we've definitely asked you this before we get to Kyle Tucker specifically. When someone asks you, are the Dodgers bad for baseball? What's your reaction?
No, I don't think so. Right. I mean, they're bad. They're not bad for baseball. I mean, I think, first of all, from an entertainment standpoint, right, you need somebody to root against, and certainly they seem to have cornered the market on that here of late. But this is past is prologue, right? So this is not all that different than what we saw in the late 90s or the early 2000s with the Yankees, right? They had it every free agent. They had a good run where they won 4 out of 5, and then they got old and they didn't have as much success, and they would win pennants and lose in the World Series, and everybody would cheer and celebrate, right? So, this is probably a similar path to what LA is on. And, I saw this study. I'd like to see the research updated, but we may have talked about this a year ago. When the Dodgers were adding, Sasaki, and they added everybody in the bullpen. I think it was after the Tanner Scott signing, right? Which is the last time everybody was clutching pearls over the Dodgers. Somebody did a look, and the percentage difference between the number 1 and number 2 payroll team in 2000 was vastly wider than it is now. And same between 1 and 30. And it's just the dollar figures are much different. Then it was probably a $3 or $4 billion industry. Now it's a $14 billion industry. So, it's a really convenient way for ownership to get a little bit of press on their side to get a salary cap, which doesn't necessarily create all the parity that I think fans want, that the NFL has done a great job of marketing on. Also, it's a far more complicated system with baseball because so much of the revenue is tied up in local revenue and they don't share as much. So, all of this is I get it. And I think it's fair for a lot of small market teams and small market fans to be really upset with the fact that the Dodgers keep adding all these star players. Not that small market teams are going to, but it gives you that sense that you can't compete. I don't know that that's entirely realistic. I mean, I think certainly the Brewers who are the smallest market had the best record in baseball a year ago. So I do think that small market teams can compete, and I think that there are small market teams that can become revenue juggernauts. See the Padres, San Diego, who are revenue sharing payors. They aren't receiving revenue sharing because they've made so much money from basically the fact that they sell out Petco every night because they've packed the place so people can see Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado and all of these stars. So I don't take a whole lot of stock in the easy sports talkish answer of like, this is the worst thing that ever happened. There'll be something else worse tomorrow, I promise. If the Bears lose to the Rams on Sunday, it'll be worse.
There's been a lot of reaction online kind of piggybacking on that of people being like, I don't even want to go to games. I'm just tired of a kind of one big bad team. Do you think it's better for baseball's ratings when there is a Yankees, a Dodgers that everyone's rooting against, or do you like it when there's more parity?
Well, I mean, listen, like look at the postseason ratings the last 2 years, right? Like they've been pretty big. And I don't think it's any surprise that it's not just that the Dodgers are there, it's that they are there with Shohei Ohtani. You know, like they have the biggest star in the game and he's on that platform. Furthermore, like just part of the Dodgers revenue, I know everything gets tied to their television contract, but they are making a ton of money internationally because Ohtani is a massive star in Japan. Well, you know, Ohtani offered a similar version of what the Dodgers signed him for to the other teams that were in the mix, Toronto, San Francisco, right? All it would have taken is somebody saying, okay, well, let's do $800 million. And maybe it pushes the Dodgers to a point where they get uncomfortable with something like that. But they're able to make money because of Ohtani, too. And let's face it, they're a desirable location, right? It's not just because they're winning. It's not just because they're spending, but their infrastructure is so good. Like what they're doing to take care of the families of players, like what they do in player development, what they do to help players get better, like all of it is unrivaled right now. And that to me is the secret sauce of the Dodgers, that they spent a decade building that kind of infrastructure that when they needed to go out and spend in free agency, when their homegrown talent was getting to free agency and they had to make the choices and they had to bring in external players, that it created a great environment for them to walk into. And you know, Kyle Tucker wants to play on a winning team in the same way. I've seen this on Twitter a lot, and I think it should be. I don't think it's like it should be a knock on him. It's like Kevin Durant when he went to the Warriors, right? Like he wanted to win. That team's winning. So like, what's the difference? And so that to me is more of what's going on with LA.
I always make this point. By the way, Mike, I completely agree with your first point about is it bad for baseball? We spent the first 30 minutes. I kind of listen. We do San Diego sports talk, and I cover the Padres for a living. But I have to be honest, and I didn't blame it on the Dodgers. There's things at play that go beyond the Dodgers. There's things at play across all sports. I think it's too easy to just be like, you know what? Why watch? Guaranteed three-peat. That's just not how the sport works. We've had you on before where you're like,
no.
What are the percentages even of the Dodgers in any given year, even if they are, quote unquote, the best team of winning the World Series? I mean, it's not like they have some 80% chance of winning a World Series. Shoot, a 10 or 20% chance is a high percentage chance to win a World Series, but that leaves 80% for the other teams. And look back at 24 and 25.
That's right.
You know, I mean,
that's right.
I don't know if they were left for dead, but the Padres failed to take advantage in 24. Look at 25. The Blue Jays didn't capitalize when given opportunities in game 6 and 7, right?
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. I mean, you're right. Like if a team has like a 15% chance to win the World Series in projections, like that's really high.
Yeah.
But you're right. It makes it the 85% chance that they're not going to. We've talked about the nature of the playoffs before and all of that, but like you've seen it firsthand, right? It's not like the Dodgers have run away with the division the last 2 years.
True.
You know, it's not just the playoffs. They haven't run away with the division. In fact, I think you can make the argument, despite the fact that they have 3 Hall of Famers in the front part of their lineup, that these were 2 of the weaker Dodger teams of the last decade, right? At least in terms of record compared to what they did in the league. Heck, the best team they may have had was probably the one that lost the division to the Giants, you know, in 2021. So I don't know that I'm, you know, like I think that this is a lot of it is just reacting to what's happening. And listen, it's a huge number for Kyle Tucker, right? Like Kyle Tucker making $60 million and like 57 in present day value is an obscene amount of money, right? But it's also like the Mets offered him $55 million in present day value, right? Like the Blue Jays probably could have gone to this, and it's not like the Blue Jays were some plucky upstart in the postseason, right? The top 7 in payroll. So I don't know, man. Like I think a lot of it. The Dodgers are in the crosshairs right now. I'll ask you, if Tucker had signed this exact contract with Toronto, are we having this conversation today about how bad the Jays are for baseball?
Of course not.
Yeah.
No chance. Yeah. Exactly right.
Where do you look for the Padres to go after they lose out on Arenado?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a weird fit anyway because the bat just isn't a first base bat. I don't know. Like we just did our team audit. Like we're going through each organization, right? And we did our Padres one yesterday. And man, it's thin on the position player side, but just like from a depth standpoint. So I don't know. I mean, I think AJ Preller is trying to be as creative as possible. They're okay rotation wise at least in terms of depth. Like they've got a couple of options outside of the 5 that they have right now. I know it's not the sexiest group, but it should be okay. I'd still love to see them add like a starting pitcher and 2 bats to this mix. And if they're not going to be given a whole lot of financial resources, I'm not entirely sure how they do it. But if there's one guy who can figure it out, it's Preller. You know, I think they need a power bat, which would be easy to slot in at first, right? That some preferably one I think that hits from the right side, and I think that they need some better bench pieces. But that's kind of where they're at right now. And I, you know, there's not like, if you could sign Reese Hoskins, I know he's not maybe the sexiest name at this point, but great dude, power hitter, draws walks. Like I would be signed up for that if you could find a contract that worked for Hoskins, and he would fit a lot of what they need. If they wanted a utility guy like Luis Rengifo, who's still out there, who had a pretty bad year with the Angels, but has been a pretty good player overall and is a little bit younger than some of the other free agents, right? He's a switch hitter, can play all over the field. Like those are guys that I would like to see them add to the mix. I just don't know if they have that ownership is going to give them the modest payroll that they need above what they've already spent to be able to add that group.
My last question for you, Mike, and Mike Faren will be Network Radio with us right now in San Diego, is, you know, I think a lot of people were pleasantly surprised to see them, you know, re-up Michael King. But then the other side of that, and now Joe Musgrove's coming back from Tommy John, obviously encouraging. But I guess the other side of it is we have to remember King last year only 15 starts. I don't know if the innings in front of me, but I think it was under 100. And then Musgrove, of course, didn't pitch last year, but a lot of guys have come off Tommy John. As in, I think on paper you say, wow, they got King, they got Musgrove, everything's fixed. But I mean, what's reasonable for King in innings and what's reasonable for Musgrove in productivity in 2026?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I mean, I think King providing innings similar to what he did in 2024 is certainly possible. He needs to stay healthy. I think Musgrove, like I'm less concerned about the number of innings that Musgrove throws and more about the quality of them, because there's going to be some fits and starts in the first half of the season. I think, you know, I don't know that it'll be quite as extreme, but like watch Sandy Alcantara the first half of last year, and it was really inconsistent. In the second half, he started to look, you know, like the Cy Young Award winner that he was for the Marlins before. And that's pretty similar timetable to when Musgrove had the surgery, right? So I would think that there's some inconsistencies there. And you know, like I like Randy Vasquez a little bit as a back end starter, but I like him if he's throwing 94, 96, not 90 to 92 like he was through the first half of last year. So yeah, I mean, I think that's where that depth has to come in. And Kyle Hart's maybe not the sexiest name, but he's, you know, he can get you some of the innings. And I think Matt Waldron is a better pitcher than what he showed last year. So there's some of that to it, but you're right. I mean, that's probably where they need a little bit more depth. And they also, like, they have the one luxury that a lot of other teams don't, especially if Jason Adam can come back healthy, in that their bullpen is just a lot better than everybody else's. Like the options, like their 4th best option is better than most teams' best option, right? Like they just, like their best option or their 4th best option may not be better than the Dodgers' best option in Diaz and Edwin Diaz, but it would be their 2nd best option. And it's better than any option that Arizona is going to have and better than any option that the Giants are going to have. So that's a huge strength that the Padres can either use to deal from to try and fill some of these needs, which they seem reluctant to, and understandably so, but also reduce the burden of what they get out of that starting rotation.
Love the insight, Mike. Really do. If you want to co-host with me in San Diego, just do that, please. Mike, appreciate you. And Jim will be doing the Phillies wrap-up show, I'm sure, soon, or you know, the Philly version of Jon and Jim. But thanks, Mike, for doing it. We'll catch up again soon.
Does he yell enough to be on WIP?
No, probably not. He'd be too positive. He gets ripped for being the most negative guy ever here. He'd be way too positive in Philadelphia. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you.
All right, take care.
Mike Faren, MLB Network Radio. We'll react to that on the other side on San Diego Sports 760. All right, back with you, San Diego Sports 760. Good perspective from Mike Faren on, just again, it's like there's a lot of pent up frustration, which is reasonable based on the success that the Dodgers have had the last 2 years. And the funny thing is, it's not just a local story. Like it used to be, what's it going to take for the Padres to get by the Dodgers? That was a local story. And then you had 2022 and the Padres beat them in the postseason, and that was great. But now it feels like it's more of a national story. The Dodgers are winning World Series. They weren't by and large in the 90s, 2000s, 2010s. They were always good, or by and large, they were good. But now it's reached this crescendo where they're spending and they're winning. Even if you forget about the COVID year, they're still spending and winning here the last 2 years. It's not just a conversation in San Diego. Look at what they say in New York about the Dodgers or in Boston. So but again, it goes back to what did people say about the Warriors when they added KD? And what if this is like, as long as there have been sports, there have been dynasties. And I'm sure there's two sides to that coin. The side when your team is winning, that's the dynasty. And then every other team's fan base that is watching this other fan base and team celebrate.
Well, and the Dodgers for the 2010s was kind of one of the big disappointments. I mean, that was the knock, is that they had this super talented team. Yeah. They get every year, even after the 2020 year. You take the Padres beating them. That was a massive shock. Arizona swept them. I mean, that came out of nowhere. Probably should have seen it. The Dodgers pitching staff was terrible, but it was really kind of like the laughing stock. It was like, oh, the Dodgers can spend all they want and they're not winning. Well, now they're winning. So I think it's becoming a story. I also think the Padres the last, 5-6 years have been relevant in the picture. They've been a perennial playoff team, perennially in the playoff picture. I think it's also getting exacerbated because the Giants and Diamondbacks now are no slouches. And the Giants went through a little period there after the Baumgartner years where they weren't great. The Diamondbacks were atrocious. And then they go on the run of the World Series. The Giants acquire some big pieces. So now it's like even a national story, obviously, for Mets fans and Yankee fans and Blue Jay fans. But even the division, like there's 4 franchises that have pretty good ball clubs, pretty good teams that feel like they have a shot to make the playoffs. So I think it makes it even more pronounced when the Dodgers are landing a Kyle Tucker and the rest of the division isn't.
Yeah. And also to that point, I mean, we've spent so much time on this through the prism of the Dodgers and how does it impact Padres fans. And I think that makes sense. But to shift the dynamic, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, whether the Dodgers landed Kyle Tucker or not does not address the Padres' need for a first baseman. Right. It does not address the Padres' need to add slug to their lineup or the Padres' need to add, as Mike Faren just said, I think he'd like to see them add 2 pitchers and 1 bat, or 1 pitcher and 2 bats. I think maybe 1 starting pitcher and 2 bats. So be careful to go down the right path. With all this complaining about the Dodgers and their spending, don't lose sight of, I guess I would say, don't let the Padres off the hook, so to speak. Make sure the Padres still complete the roster that is necessary to compete. The Dodgers aren't going to be the only team in the National League playoff, no matter what they spend. You still got to put yourself in a position. End of the day, best of 3, best of 5, best of 7 series. I'm not saying they're full coin flips, but they are winnable even for underdogs, more so in baseball than in these other sports.
Well, and it sucks, and we can sit here and malign it all at once about how they have an advantage. Last time I checked, everyone's still signing up to play. So to your point of what are the Padres going to do? It's not just an excuse to get there and go, well, the Dodgers can spend more money. That is something that they can do. It's kind of the unfortunate, it's the breaks. It's the Padres are not that far off from contending. But if the Padres are thinking that they're just going to keep the status quo and basically keep running the same team out there year after year with minor tweaks, what do they say? What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. It's hard to sell. Well, maybe Machado and Bogarts will get it going for the playoffs. What has Machado and his career 209 batting average in the postseason shown you why that's just going to flip later in his career? Not trying to be pessimistic. It's just to your point about what are the Padres going to do? What are the Padres actually going to do about the Dodgers spending should be more of a concern, I think, than everyone going, well, it's BS. It doesn't really count because the Dodgers can spend more and there's kind of foregoing the season in a way.
And I've said it before, in 2024, once you get past the trade deadline, 2025 too, it's the money isn't saving your season. Once the Dodgers were, I remember last October, everyone said the death of the Dodgers would be their bullpen. I mean,
they didn't make any moves at the deadline.
They couldn't have been saved. It's not there's nothing you can do in October. You're not saved by cash. It's if you're in a if you're in a tsunami, you could have $1 billion. What's the money going to do to save you? Like, at some point, you got to do it on field. So we always get enamored with spending and winning trade deadlines and winning off seasons. I remember when the Padres acquired, Mason Miller and what they've done a lot at deadlines and off seasons. You can win on paper, but you got to be able to translate it to the field. And I hate to put it this bluntly, but it's like, sometimes you got to like tip your cap and give them credit. They won the games. Like they took advantage of the opportunities. They weren't inevitably winning World Series just because they outspent people in 24 and 25. They outspent people in 22 and 23. They didn't win World Series. They did it in 24 and 25 because they came through. And to your point, Manny Machado and others didn't. The Padres did not score for 20 something. What was it? 24 consecutive
24 innings
in the 2024 postseason. Who's that?
I mean, what's crazy is that if that game goes a different way, the Padres, the game 4, game 5,
yep,
or the Blue Jays game 6, game 7 go different ways. I mean, we're sitting here talking about, look at them spending all this money and they still can't come through. Like it's crazy. The margins of, and then
one game, one inning.
I mean, the game 7 of the World Series, there were 4 different times the Dodgers quote should have lost the game.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's unreal. So it is tough to swallow, but it is like, to your point, what are the Padres going to actually do to change the narrative going forward?
Sammy, appreciate you, man.
You're the best, bro. I love being on with you guys.
For an hour, Sammy Long with us here in the 2:00 hour. I'm back with you on the other side here until 6. We've got Restaurant Week gift card giveaways. We'll explain on the other side. We've got 2 great giveaways for you. One of them coming up in the 3:00 hour. Greg Camarillo is on the show. We'll get into the divisional round coming up at 4:30. And if you missed our conversation with San Diego State football GM Caleb Davis, you'll hear that today in the 5:00 hour. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by eBay. In Major League Baseball news, we had a bunch of signings between last night and today. Kyle Tucker, of course, agreed on a 4-year, $240 million deal with the Dodgers. The Mets signed Bo Bichette to a 3-year, $126 million deal. And JT Realmuto is going to stay in Philadelphia. He agreed to a 3-year, $45 million deal. In college football news, Duke starting quarterback Darian Mensah has changed his mind, and he is not staying at Duke. He is entering the transfer portal. He changed his mind last second and submitted the paperwork today. Tomorrow night, the Aztecs are back home to take on New Mexico. Our pregame coverage begins at 4:00. John will have the tip after 5. And on Sunday afternoon, we have NFL divisional round action when the Rams take on the Bears. Pregame starts at 2:30 and the kick is around 3:30. Imagine what you can find on eBay, like that rare hologram trading card that you've become totally obsessed with, shiny like the designer handbag of your dreams. eBay has it. They even have the perfect parts that will fit your car. Millions of finds, each with a story. eBay.
All right, John Schaefer, Brent Sperry with you. San Diego Sports 760. If you miss Mike Faren, MLB Network Radio, he's amazing on all things baseball. He really is. I thought he had good perspective on the Kyle Tucker situation. And if you missed that, you can hear it coming up in the 5:00 hour. We also have Greg Camarillo. We'll get into the divisional round, this massive weekend, obviously, of NFL football. Greg will join us at 4:30. I do want to remind our listeners that we have not one, but two $50 gift cards to 333 Pacific for San Diego Restaurant Week to give away. One of those gift cards we'll give away this hour. San Diego Restaurant Week invites you to dine out at over 100 restaurants from Oceanside to Chula Vista, January 25th through February 1st. Book your reservations at SanDiegoRestaurantWeek.com. You're also going to win a pair of tickets to the special screening of Mercy, only in theaters January 23rd. Screening information, it's IMAX 3D. It's Wednesday, January 21st. It's at 7 p.m. at Edwards Mira Mesa. So a $50 gift card, again, to 333 Pacific, and a pair of tickets to the special screening of Mercy, only in theaters January 23rd. We'll give away that gift card and those tickets coming up later this hour. All right, I don't know if we're putting a bow on Kyle Tucker, but like, again, I think that sometimes in our job, it's like you're paid to offer an opinion, which we always do, but I don't think it has to be the strongest of opinions. Like when I was consuming this last night and seeing this play out in real time and looking at the reaction on social media, which isn't always the greatest indicator, there's a lot of really like, I don't know if it's hot takes, but very like strong reactions to the signing of Kyle Tucker. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm sure there's people out there today, whether it's local radio or national TV or whatever, where they're drawing these hard lines like the sport is ruined forever because Kyle Tucker just signed with the Dodgers. And I'm thinking to myself, like, that's ridiculous to say. Like, Kyle Tucker is not the move to put the sport off its axis. Like, this isn't the move that's going to, knock over all the dominoes and break baseball. Brent made the point earlier. If anything, it's already been broken. And how are you going to fix it? I don't think it's as simple as a CBA. They're not all going to sit down at the end of 2026 and be like, you know what? Everyone is right. The fans have it right. Let's get it right for the betterment of the fans. That's not how life works. The owners have their interests. The players union have their interests, and little of it has anything to do with baseball's fans. So they're going to come to some type of agreement. Now, I don't know if there's going to be a work stoppage or not. I hope there isn't. I hope they come to some type of agreement. But if you think it's a golden goose agreement where all of a sudden, because of the next CBA, the Pittsburgh Pirates are going to be playing for World Series in 2 of the next 5 years, I have news for you. At the end of the day, no matter what the next CBA looks like, advantage LA Dodgers and New York Yankees, disadvantage clubs like Pittsburgh and Baltimore and Tampa and Miami. And then there's going to be this middle ground as well. It's always going to be stacked in the favor of larger markets. There's not going to be a salary cap that comes out of this. I'm sorry. There's not going to be some steadfast, tried and true salary cap that fixes this sport. First of all, you grandfather in everything. They're not going to make the Dodgers trade away players because they're over this quote unquote salary cap that doesn't even exist. So like, my point is, you either accept it and deal with its flaws, or I guess you don't consume Major League Baseball. But I think by and large, people are still going to be there for Major League Baseball. again, I don't think it's all going to be fixed. And I get it. Is some of it broken? Yeah, but a lot of sports are probably somewhat broken, and people watch them regardless.
I think part of the problem too that makes it so much harder to fix is it's not like they already had a pre-established like cap in effect or something like that to where they just have to tweak how much it is and just an adjustment of the numbers, kind of like how the other leagues do it now when they redo how much cap space and everything else, because they essentially have to start from scratch. And it's pretty much their most contested issue because the players 100% do not want that. And, the owners 100% want that. So they're just going to kind of come at this impasse to where, it's just going to be a standoff pretty much.
I mean, yes, I would agree with that. In any type of negotiation like that, you're never getting sweeping wholesale change. Like that's kind of the point. It's almost like the political system. Okay. And we never talk about this, but it's kind of set up to be in the middle. Half the time it's blue. The other half of the time it's red. It's not like on these, opposite sides of the spectrum. You're choosing from two parties, right? You're not choosing from 100 different options. Look at the history of the country. How many times has a president been a Democrat? How many times has a president been a Republican? It flip-flops back and forth. My point is you never get this wholesale sweeping change where the whole structure is turned on its head politically, and you're not going to get it in baseball. You're not. That's not what's on the other side of the work stoppage. And I do feel like there's some people out there is like, man, I can't wait till we get to the offseason and this all gets fixed. What are you talking about? How do you fix it? It's not going to take away Shohei Ohtani's ability to hit 55 home runs and pitch. It's not going to change the Dodgers front office structure and analytics. Like there are ways to level the playing field that have to do with what you do as an organization. I mean, just look at the last 5 years. I mean, the Padres beat the Dodgers in the postseason within the last 5 years. It was in 2022. It was 3 seasons ago. And then in 2024, it's not like close matters in baseball. The Padres were close. They lost a 5-game series in 5 games to the Dodgers. They led the series 2-1. I get it. That doesn't count. But it's not like things are so unequal that it's the equivalent of, the U.S. beating Russia in 1980 in Lake Placid or something, or this is Chaminade over Virginia. That's not what this is. If the Blue Jays won the World Series, it's not Chaminade. If the Padres won the 2024 DS over the Dodgers, it's not Lake Placid, 1980 Olympics. It's just not that. If anything, and we've talked about this too, people complain about this. I mean, like college football, the structure of college football is much more inclined to allow the rich get richer and to have a result where, Indiana's beating James Madison and the Dodgers beating, the San Diego Padres in a best-of-5 playoff series. That's much more a coin flip, a baseball series than a 1-game college football playoff, the way the format is right now.
Yeah, I know. Lots of people like to treat some of this stuff and overreact and just they kind of treat it like the Globetrotters, to where it's you win all the time, and now they're just like feeling sorry for the Generals.
Right, exactly.
To where it's just like, well, when you have a dynasty, you have to have one team that loses all the time.
I do wonder what to like our point about the CBA and what's to come. What are we going to say now? Listen, maybe the Dodgers win the World Series. Do they have a decent chance to do it? Of course they do. But there's also, as we just talked with Mike Faren about, there's a very good chance someone else wins the World Series. There'll be an 80% chance, let's say, even if the Dodgers have a 20% chance of winning the World Series, that means there's an 80% chance someone else does. Let's say next year, the Houston Astros win the World Series. Or let's say next year, I'm just making it up, the Arizona Diamondbacks win the World Series. Then what's our point heading into the CBA? Is it only about eliminating what's played out with the Dodgers? Is this solely a Dodgers conversation, or is it more about inequity within the sport highlighted by the Dodgers? At the end of the day, we can't force the Pittsburgh Pirates to be a successful organization. Like they're going to have to want it for themselves. It's like what they say about, I might want Brent to stop smoking. You don't smoke. Did you used to smoke? You used to. He's got to want to stop smoking. And I can't want the Pirates to spend money and invest around Paul Skeens. They have to want it. I don't care what rules are in place. You're always going to have well-run organizations and poorly run organizations, regardless of the rules. And it's like anything in life. It's like again, you might want it for someone else, but at the end of the day, they need to want it for themselves. If you've got an issue with substance abuse or gambling, I can want it as badly as anyone for someone not to have that. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to take it upon themselves. And that's what I would say about well-run organizations and poorly run organizations. I think by and large, the Padres have done things well enough to put themselves in a position to compete, to win at a high level. Now, can they get over the hump? And does a team like the Dodgers make it harder for the Padres to get over the hump? Yes, it makes it harder. That's basically how professional sports work. It's never easy. There's always going to be someone at the top. And unfortunately, speaking from a San Diego perspective, it's been hard. I mean, Padres ownership historically was not good. It was great under Peter Seidler, but that was short-lived. I mean, look at the history of professional franchises in the city. Clippers, give me a break with their ownership. Chargers, give me a break with the way that it played out. So San Diegans have earned a winner. They've earned having the right ownership group, and they deserve it, so to speak, but life doesn't work that way. It's like, and whenever it comes, and there will be a day where it comes in San Diego, like, trust me, there will be a day when it comes, it will have been well earned, right? It's not like, it's year 2 and the Vegas Golden Knights win the Stanley Cup. Did they do that, by the way? I think they may have won the Stanley Cup in their second season. Like, it's going to be earned whenever the Padres do it. And just because the Dodgers added Kyle Tucker doesn't mean the Dodgers are winning every World Series from here on out. Like, this isn't the straw that broke the camel's back for baseball. There's been so many examples of moves like this. Sometimes they pay off beautifully. Other times they don't. But, again, if you're a Padres fan, you just got to keep getting into the postseason. The more opportunities you have, at some point you're breaking through. I mean, that's just how sports work traditionally. And that's how you have to believe, I think, as a fan heading into 2026. And I'll be watching. I mean, listen, just because the Dodgers signed Kyle Tucker doesn't change the way I'm going to be consuming Padres baseball in 2026. All right, let's hit on this weekend. Divisional round. Obviously, everything on the line Saturday and Sunday in the NFL. We'll get into those matchups. Greg Camarillo is going to join us at 4:30. Later this hour, we're giving away a $50 gift card to 333 Pacific for San Diego Restaurant Week. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. All right, San Diego Sports 760. Again, we've got that Restaurant Week gift card giveaway we'll do later this hour. We'll do it again in the 5 o'clock hour as well. So two $50 gift cards we'll give away here today on San Diego Sports 760. Reminder, Aztec basketball tomorrow at 5. Pregame coverage at 4. Make sure to swing by our pregame location. That's outside Viejas Arena. On your way in, like as you walk into Viejas Arena tomorrow, swing by our pregame broadcast location. Sammy Long is going to be handling pregame. He was just with me in the first hour. Say hi to Sammy. It's his first time hosting exclusively, I think, kind of solo hosting the pregame show. Plus, if you swing by, we are giving someone a Brian Dutcher signed basketball. You swing by, you scan a QR code, you're entered to win. We've got a Brian Dutcher signed basketball. It's actually with me right now in the studio. So a great giveaway.
Welcome to Jon and Brian Dutcher basketball from 2 to 6.
Yeah, exactly. It's just me and the basketball is sitting in like
Wilson.
I used to be a Jim. It's now a Brian Dutcher signed basketball.
Hey Jim, we'll replace you with an inanimate object. The show's never been better.
It's hilarious. Anyway, swing by tomorrow from 4 to 5 for your chance to win that Brian Dutcher signed basketball. Listen to the game, a huge game that we'll get into more later between the Aztecs and the Lobos coming up tomorrow at 5 p.m. All right, because of the Kyle Tucker news. We haven't even touched on Bo Bichette, by the way, but because of the Kyle Tucker news, we haven't touched either on the divisional round, which has amazing matchups this weekend. What do you got?
Real quick on Bo Bichette. When you saw that news, did that just feel like that was kind of a consolation prize for the
100%.
Mets?
It's
for
exactly what it is.
2 days you were hearing about how they were going to get Tucker, and then all of a sudden the Dodgers sweep in and take him. And
Their
then
owner,
it's
man.
just like,
Did you see Steve Cohen took to Twitter yesterday and saying like they were waiting for smoke, like did like the Pope analogy?
oh, okay.
And all Mets fans are like, oh my gosh, we're landing Kyle Tucker. Like, you know, we're waiting for a word. Like he basically led them down the path. You have to be so careful doing that when you're like, big news. And then you come on the air, you're like, Jim Russell's going to join us at 3:30. I'm like, that's not like, if you say big news, you better have something big. And the Mets have a fan base. I mean, they're in New York City. It's not the Yankees, but they're in New York City. And it's like, play dumb games, win dumb prizes. If you're going to land Kyle Tucker, be quiet on it. It'll speak for itself if he signs with the Mets. But by leading them down the path that he's going to sign with you, and then you land with a consolation prize, all of a sudden people aren't even excited that you landed Bo Bichette because they thought you were going to get Kyle Tucker. That's on you, Steve Cohen. You led your fan base down that path. It's exactly right. And to their credit, they acted quickly. They offered Kyle Tucker a large deal. They didn't land him. And the next day they offer Bo Bichette a very large deal, and he accepts it. And it's a significant addition. It really is.
Oh, yeah, he's a good player.
He is a good player. Kyle Tucker, you're a Cubs fan. Is a very good player when healthy. You know, he's not going to be one of those guys. Listen, I think the Dodgers got an excellent player, but in a lineup that already has excellent players, he's not hitting 45 home runs. He's not a 1,000 OPS player. He's a very well-rounded hitter that only enhances their lineup. He's just another key piece in the like Dodger lineup cog.
Yeah, I was gonna say Tucker's whole thing is he's the best when he doesn't have to be the man.
There you go.
When he just has to be a piece or a cog in the machine, he's so much better. You know, I think yes, and he was coming, you know, off of the injury in the playoffs, but last year it just kind of felt like he had a lot of pressure to do a lot of stuff himself in the playoffs.
Yep.
And it kind of showed with some of his at bats. So I think, you know, the Dodgers, look at their lineup. You know, how much of a joke is it? He's going to be like their 5th or 6th best player in their starting lineup.
I mean, their lineup, and again, it's like the game isn't played on paper, and you're going to see a lineup and be like, oh my gosh, they're going to score, 1,200 runs, and they're going to hit 305 as a team. It never really works out the way you think it's going to work out. Now, if they are able to stay healthy, and I remember heading into 2024, people were like, they're going to win 120 games. And then the additions they made last offseason, people are like, they're going to win 120 games. And now they add Kyle Tucker, and people are like, they're going to win 120 games. They didn't even win 100 games the last 2 years, but they did win the World Series, which at the end of the day is the goal. But like when your projected lineup is Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, Will Smith, Kyle Tucker, Teoscar Hernandez, Max Muncy, Andy Pages, and Tommy Edmonds, your number 9 hitter. Yeah, that's tough to compete with. But again, baseball isn't played on paper. They're not going to win all of their games. That won't be their lineup every single game. They had pitching injuries everywhere last year that they clearly overcame in October. I don't even know what I'm trying to sell myself on. I guess I'm telling you, it's not a sales job what I'm doing what I'm doing to our listeners. I've watched baseball long enough to know that you can't just say heading into a year that there's one best team on paper and that team is winning the World Series. It's not to say the best teams don't sometimes win. They do. But there's countless examples of improbable postseason runs. Countless. You don't have to go back that far to remember the 2019 Nationals that at one point I think were 17-31 or 19-33 that year. So yeah, when you're in the depths of it and the Dodgers have won the last 2 World Series and Kyle Tucker signs for $240 million and gets the richest average annual valuation in the history of the sport, you're kind of like left scratching your head and with this quizzical look. And I do understand that. Let's just see. Once we get into the year, let's see how 2026 plays out. And then we'll continue to make, we'll continue to go from there. We'll get into the postseason, I guess, throughout the course of this 3 o'clock hour. I mean, this is what you get tomorrow. If you're a football fan, you get Bills Broncos in Denver, where Denver's a slim 1.5 point favorite as the 1 seed because Josh Allen. I mean, is this the coronation? Is this the run that the Bills have been waiting for with Mahomes out, with that, clearer path through the AFC? We get Niners Seahawks, which to me is really intriguing. I'm still surprised the Niners are a 7-point underdog. That to me is very intriguing. So those are the appetizers for the entree, which on Sunday is Patriots Texans. That to me of the 4 games is the least intriguing.
Yeah,
it's the Texans. And then Rams Bears is great theater. And I think there's reason. First of all, everyone loves a cold game. You're going to get one of these 20-degree days or nights in Chicago.
I guess it's supposed to be worse than that.
Is it?
They're saying this morning that there's a chance it could be one of the coldest games in like league history.
Well, you get remember, because this game, it's Sunday afternoon here. It's a 6:30 kick in Chicago, right? Is that right? Chicago Eastern time zone or Central?
No, we're Central. We're talking.
Okay, so 5:30 kick is dark, I would assume, in the winter.
Oh,
it's pretty much dark.
It's just that kid. 4:30.
So you're playing at night when the high temperature in Chicago that day is 20. So you're that absolutely impacts the game.
Well, they've already said it was either last night or this morning that Matt Stafford plans on wearing a wetsuit during the game. He's going to wear he's going to wear a scuba suit to try and deal with the cold.
So I mean that's a factor, and I think that's advantage Bears. I think once you start getting into the head and you're changing your routines and changing what you wear, like you want all that psychological advantage that I think the Bears will have on Sunday.
I thought it's funny they've been having like a meme going around of that part in Dumb and Dumber when Jim Carrey and them are like frozen together on their little moped and they're like, it's the Rams coming into Chicago Soldier Field for the game.
I love it. All right, Greg Camarillo with more on this weekend in the NFL, the divisional round. He'll join us coming up live at 4:30. On the other side, I do want to give away a $50 gift card to 333 Pacific for San Diego Restaurant Week. That's coming up next right here on San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Staples. We had a plethora of big name signings in Major League Baseball over the last about day and a half. Kyle Tucker, of course, signed a 4-year, $240 million deal with the Dodgers. The Mets inked up Bo Bichette to a 3-year, $126 million deal. And JT Realmuto has agreed to stay with the Phillies on a 3-year, $45 million deal. In college football news, Duke quarterback Darian Mensah has changed his mind and he's leaving Duke and entering the transfer portal. Tomorrow night, the Aztecs are back home at Viejas Arena to take on New Mexico. Our pregame coverage with Sammy starts at 4:00. John will have the tip after 5. And Sunday afternoon, we have NFL divisional round action for you when the Rams take on the Bears. Pregame starts at 2:30 and the kick is at 3:30. It's a new year and Staples has fresh deals to get you fully equipped for 2026. Like up to $120 off HP Smart Tank printers. This deal means business, and so do these printers. Shop in store and online today. Staples, that was easy, ends January 31st.
All right, coming up in 10 minutes, Brent, make sure to remind me. We've got the $50 gift card, San Diego Restaurant Week. We're giving that away in 10 minutes. Again, Greg Camarillo will join us at 4:30. You'll hear Mike Faren if you missed it from MLB Network Radio at 5. And then Caleb Davis, San Diego State football GM. Really good conversation about the Aztecs and the portal. You'll hear that coming up at 5:30. Continue the conversation about this weekend in the NFL. And Brent has mentioned this over the last 24 hours, the Sam Darnold situation that's playing out with the Seahawks, the oblique injury. And they are, at this point, I think the quote was really optimistic that he's playing. Maybe it's some gamesmanship in there, but I'll tell you what, if he is not 100%, because again, he's had his issues already, right? Sam Darnold in these big games.
You know, your first instinct is to be like, oh God, that's really going to put the Seahawks at a disadvantage, which it will.
Right.
But in a weird way, it's almost like it's evening the playing field to a certain extent because of all the injuries that the 49ers have had with Kittle and, Warner and, everybody else down the line that's gotten hurt, to where now I wonder, is the spread going to come down now a little bit from that 7?
That's what I was wondering. It's like, if he's actually dealing with a oblique injury, and again, I don't know how real it is, because now they're saying that they're really optimistic that he's going to play. But again, just anything like this time of year, like if your quarterback is not fully healthy, that's going to impact your ability to win. Like, I'm sorry, like this is the NFL. And listen, I didn't think the Niners defense was like spectacular last week, honestly, against the Eagles. I thought some of it was self-inflicted by Philadelphia. I really did. Like Philadelphia had 2 or 3 really good drives early, running the football, and then there were drops and poorly called plays and failures to take advantage on the 4th and 1 and 4th and 2 situations that are so monumental in an NFL game. But I do give the Niners defense credit for the way they played, specifically in the second half. But I guess my point is, they're dealing with injuries, but like Niners defense has found a way basically all year long. And I would think that they'd be able to do it again if Sam Darnold isn't 100%. I still think that 7-point spread is high. I really do.
I think it is too. And if Darnold can't go, then they're stuck with Drew Lock.
Yeah, that's not happening. And they're not winning the game with that.
Yeah, and his backup is Jalen Milroe from the old Alabama QB that doesn't play.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like in the NFL, you're not winning playoff games with backup quarterbacks, by and large, against good teams. Like Brock Purdy, I think I read this at some point in this morning or last night. He's never even lost in Seattle. I think he's 4-0 all time in Seattle. That's a tough environment. Now, Seattle hasn't been Seattle until now. Like this is their best team, obviously, over the last 2, 3, 4 years. But I said this earlier this year. Why wouldn't the Niners have confidence that they can win this game? They've already won in Seattle this season against the top seed. Now, did they blow an opportunity 2 weeks ago or whenever that was now, 3 weeks ago in week 18? Yeah, they blew a golden opportunity. They'd be hosting this game. They'd have that, clear path to potentially get to a Super Bowl. The 1 seed. Super Bowl's going to be played in Santa Clara, home of the Niners this year. But this to me is still not a David versus Goliath type matchup. Yes, the Niners are dealing with injuries, but yes, they play in the division twice a year. The Niners have won in Seattle this year. And Brock Purdy has proven good enough to win games like this.
I think the only really David and Goliath situation we've even had was supposed to be, Jacksonville and Buffalo last week. And that didn't even turn out the way it was supposed to, because, Buffalo escaped there with, by the skin of their teeth. So, I think that's kind of what's making this year's playoffs, with the exception of the Chargers game, like more exciting than usual, is we don't have a Goliath. It's pretty much just a whole grouping of Davids, pretty much, because we don't have a Goliath, and there's no real standout that's just like, oh yeah, there's no point in winning, or watching, because everyone knows that the Chiefs are going to win it.
Right. There's no Dodgers in the, even though I'm telling you the Dodgers aren't guaranteed to win every World Series because they outspent everyone, but it feels like they're that Goliath that Brent's talking about. I mean, okay, here are the 8 teams left: Bills, Broncos, Niners, Seahawks, Texans, Patriots, Rams, Bears. There's only one team on that list that would shock me if they won the Super Bowl, and we all know who it is. It's Houston. Okay, I'd be shocked. I'd be utterly shocked if a team that had never won a road playoff game until 4 days ago wins 3 straight road playoff games, then wins the Super Bowl. That just, to me, would be surprising. Things happen. We've seen teams catch lightning in a bottle. Is it shocking if the Broncos win the Super Bowl? How could it be? They're the 1 seed. How could it be shocking if they won the Super Bowl? Bills, not shocking. They have Josh Allen. Is it shocking if the Niners win the Super Bowl? How could it be? Kyle Shanahan has coached in 2 of the last 5. Is it shocking if the 1 seed Seahawks win the Super Bowl? It can't be. The Patriots, 14-3. No, it can't be shocking. Again, surprising heading into the year. They went 14-3.
It's just the way that they went from last year to the 14-3. I guess that is kind of shocking.
I mean, this has already been shocking that they're 14-3.
Well, and how many times through the year where we're just like, wow, can you believe Jacksonville's like the 3rd seed?
I know. They had a chance to be the 1 seed.
Just teams that were just kind of mediocre, just kind of, they made that jump between last year and this year a lot quicker. Hell, look at my Bears. I don't think anybody expected them to, progress as quickly as they did under Ben Johnson and, Caleb Williams. So I think that's kind of a surprise that they're still in there.
I guess my point is, now that we're here, I'm with you. If you would have told me to start the year, hey, here are your 8, and this is their
I would have drug
seeding, I was
tested
like, no, none of this is going to make any sense. But now that we're here, the Rams with Matt Stafford, nobody would be surprised if they navigated their way to the Super Bowl or won it. And then Chicago, yeah, okay, I get it. Like, has Chicago over the last 20 years routinely been winning tons of playoff games or getting to Super Bowls? No. But it feels like, based on what they just did last weekend, and they have Caleb Williams, and they're hosting this weekend's playoff game. Again, I don't think it would be shocking if they reach the Super Bowl. So I like your analogy where it's not really a ton of Goliaths. It's a ton of teams that have an opportunity this time around. And someone out of that 8 is doing it. I mean, and all of them have ridiculous storylines, none better than Josh Allen with the Bills probably, but they're all ridiculous. I mean, Matt Stafford, talk about cementing a legacy and a resume. Same with Sean McVay or, Caleb Williams. That would be ridiculous. Or Mike Vrabel with the Patriots. Like there's some good storylines there. San Francisco with all the injuries. Dude, is this the year they finally win a Super Bowl? If they do it in Santa Clara. So there's some good storylines in there. And I'm expecting out of these 4 games, I'm hoping we get, like this past weekend, the wildcard weekend had ridiculous finishes. Remember all the lead changes in the 4th quarter. Can we get 3 more good games? I'm not going to ask for 4. If we get 3 good games, that'd be awesome over the next couple days.
As long as I just don't want, usually how it always works out, and this year's been an exception, which is kind of why it's been awesome, is, the Saturday games will be good, and then the Sunday games will be blowout, or vice versa. We can't have 2 days of nice things. We only get like 1 day of good games, and then 1 day of just blowouts and not really fun, entertaining games. So hopefully we'll bat 750 again this weekend,
right? And
we'll get at least 3 out of the 4 games will just be good.
Yeah, I just look at, I don't know if there's a good way to judge it or not, but I see 4-point spreads within a touchdown. I remember last week we had an 11-point spread. It was actually a great game between the Rams and the Panthers. It's the NFL. I get it. Most games are determined by a touchdown or less. But even, okay, take out the Seahawks and the Niners. The other 3 games, the point spread is between 1.5 and 4.5 points. So the expectation is you're going to have at least 3 really compelling games. I still need to be convinced that the Patriots aren't going to win by multiple scores against Houston. But everything else, I mean, I could absolutely see the Niners keeping it close. I hope the Broncos give the Bills a really good game. I think that should happen with the game in Denver. And then I hope the I mean, the fact that the Rams are now 4.5-point road favorites, that to me seems a little high considering they're on the road, the weather situation we're talking about, and last week coming off a game where they didn't put away the Panthers until very late. So that to me that's maybe the most surprising line, or maybe it's the Niners being a 7-point dog. But the Niners is a 7-point dog, and the Rams. Okay, I'm all for the Rams being favored in Chicago, but I was thinking more like 1.5, not 4.5.
I'm kind of wondering what in their mind changed between now and yesterday, because there's only 3.5 yesterday, and it went up a point.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about.
And there wasn't no injury news, and they didn't all of a sudden say it's going to be sunny and 87 on Sunday,
right?
Something,
So that just tells me that there's money that's come in, obviously supporting the Rams to win in Chicago. All right, again, Greg Camarillo, Football Night in San Diego, former NFL wide receiver. He will join us coming up at 4:30. But right now, caller 7 to 877-767-4760 has a free $50 gift card to 333 Pacific for San Diego Restaurant Week. San Diego Restaurant Week invites you to dine out at over 100 restaurants from Oceanside to Chula Vista, January 25th through February 1st. Book your reservations at SanDiegoRestaurantWeek.com. Plus, you've won a pair of tickets to the special screening of Mercy, only in theaters January 23rd. The screening will be IMAX 3D, Wednesday, January 21st, 7 p.m. at Edwards Mira Mesa. Great giveaway for caller 7 to 877-767-4760. We'll get into the Aztecs. What's on the line tomorrow at Viejas, San Diego State and New Mexico for a final time in San Diego in the Mountain West for these two programs. We'll react on the other side. Plus, Greg Camarillo at 4:30 on San Diego Sports 760.
San Diego Sports Traffic.
This report is sponsored by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air.
Southbound side of the 5, things are slowing down a little bit before you get to the Aliso Creek Rest area over to the
All right, Greg Camarillo, former NFL receiver, gets us ready for the divisional round in the NFL coming up at 4:30. You'll hear from Mike Faren, MLB Network Radio at 5 p.m. And Caleb Davis, San Diego State football GM. If you missed that yesterday, you'll hear it coming up at 5:30. Speaking of the Aztecs, but let's talk basketball. Boy, do we have a good one for you tomorrow night. Late afternoon, actually 5 p.m. is the start. San Diego State and New Mexico. This could be, interestingly, the final meeting between the Aztecs and the Lobos in San Diego. And you might be saying, why? Because they've played for the better part of the last quarter century or more. And the reason is pretty simple. Conference realignment. San Diego State, among a group of 5 teams in the current Mountain West, that's going to join Gonzaga, Oregon State, Washington State, and Texas State to form a new league. In all sports, including football and men's basketball. But New Mexico is not part of that group. So just like when the Aztecs went to Laramie for a final time the other day, this is the first of 2 regular season games. The Aztecs still have to go to Albuquerque, but that could be their final trip to Albuquerque. It certainly will be, I think, during the Brian Dutcher era. This game, first of all, tomorrow means a lot. Both of these teams are in the top 50 of most metrics, which is where you want to sit to be considered for an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. So the winner maybe has a leg up on the other to reach the tournament. It's not going to, complete anyone's resume or determine anything definitively because it's only January, but it's an important game for both San Diego State and New Mexico. But for this conversation, it's more about what this game represents. And what this game represents is the 2 winningest programs in the history of the Mountain West. You have San Diego State head and shoulders above everyone else, all the championships, regular season, and postseason in the Mountain West, and all the success in the NCAA tournament, the 4 Sweet 16s since 2011, the national championship game in 2023. And then you've got New Mexico, a prideful program that has reached the NCAA tournament a number of times, a lot of it under Steve Alford, now led by a former UC San Diego head coach, Eric Olin, who took the Tritons to the tournament last year, barely lost to Michigan. He was rewarded by getting the New Mexico job. So there are storylines everywhere. And when I think San Diego State, New Mexico, I think about Lamont Butler. Before Butler at the buzzer, I think about him pulling up at Albuquerque at the pit, hitting a long 3 that gave the Aztecs a regular season title that year before they'd later play for a national championship. I think about Jalen House at Viejas Arena, barking and jawing with Aztec fans in a New Mexico win at Viejas Arena. And that's just 2 of a countless number of games that have really been memorable, obviously, for both Aztec fans and Lobo fans. I think what's interesting about tomorrow, in addition to the metrics and what's on the line, is New Mexico's got a really San Diego feel to their roster. Eric Olin, who was here for 20 years at UCSD, Jake Hall, their terrific freshman, scored 3,000 points at Carlsbad High School. They have 2 other San Diegans on their roster. I don't think Chris Howell right now is active, who was at UCSD, but Luke Hopt played at Point Loma. Nazarene, a really good Division II player who's spending his first year right now in Division I. So you're going to have all these San Diego storylines, which you don't always get in Division I basketball. There's not a million Division I players out of San Diego County like there is in football. Like in football, San Diego County is producing, dozens of Division I athletes. In men's basketball specifically, I mean, I haven't done like the deep dive on it here, but it's not producing dozens and dozens of basketball players that are playing at the high major level in Division I. But this is an example of you got a lot of players on a really good team in New Mexico that are from San Diego. So you're going to have like a homecoming of sorts for New Mexico. I saw today, like on social media, some Lobo fans were like, oh, the Lobos are really going to want this. They've got all these San Diego ties. I'm like, the Lobos are really going to want it regardless of the San Diego ties. You're playing at San Diego State at Viejas Arena against a rival, potentially for a final time, with a lot to play for both teams. So because it's a rivalry, because it's a good opportunity, like there's a quad 1 opportunity, for example, for New Mexico, it's actually a quad 2 opportunity for the Aztecs since they are at home in this equation. Like, yeah, there's a lot on the line for both of these teams. I think for San Diego State, as we've talked about for the better part of this college basketball season, they still have work to do here to build this resume, where in a lot of seasons under Brian Dutcher, you pick up that marquee win or 2 or 3 in the non-conference, like the Houston last year. And there's so many wins they've had over the years. Like Creighton last year as well, but they've had other non-conference wins over Creighton. They've beaten the St. Mary's of the world over the years, or Gonzaga a few years back with Reese Dixon Waters winning in Spokane. So they've usually had that marquee non-conference win. And that typically bodes well when you get to Selection Sunday from an at-large perspective. This year, they don't truly have it. I mean, they have good wins. They do, but they don't have that, hang your hat on win as of yet. That Michigan, Arizona, no shame in that. Those are two of the top 3 or 4 teams in the country. And they also have, the disappointment of losing to a good team, but not a team that's going to, get a lot of national recognition in Troy. They lost at home to Troy. Now, Troy's had a good year. They're in like the top third of all the metrics. They're like sitting at like 100. They're not number 300. There's nearly 400 teams. They're sitting at like 100 in a lot of the metrics, but that's not going to be perceived as a good loss, which is understandable. But the Aztecs, by and large, don't take on a lot of bad losses. Like maybe one every couple of years on average. And okay, if it's a quote unquote bad loss, understandable. I still think it can be overcome. I know it can be overcome. And it takes winning something like tomorrow to overcome it. It takes winning like against Utah State to overcome it. It might take winning on the road at Boise. I know Boise's down right now. Or a better example would be winning at the Pit against New Mexico, or winning in Logan against Utah State. Now, that's not going to be easy. And you've got 4 games against, the upper crust of the Mountain West. Let's say that's Utah State, New Mexico, maybe Nevada as well. Nevada still has to come to Viejas Arena. Out of those, let's say those 5, are you going 3-2 or better? That to me is the threshold. With Nevada at home, New Mexico at home, Utah State at home, and then Utah State on the road and New Mexico on the road. Are you going 3-2 or better in those 5 games? I think if you do, you've built a pretty good case for an at-large bid, or certainly consideration. Shoot, look right now. If you look at me, I'm always in the weeds. Like Ken Palm, Bart Torvik, Evan. I think it's Mia, pronounced Maya. I mean, this is in the weeds. You got to be a college basketball fan to know where I'm going here. But trust me when I say that this is like, these are the metrics that the selection committee uses. Like some of them are the official metrics. And one of the sites I just mentioned, Evan Mia, he has the Aztecs right now in the field. And Bart Torvik, who I've talked about for 10 years on this station, has the Aztecs as one of the first 4 teams out. So my point is they're right there right now. And there's still 2 months of basketball to be played where they can still enhance their resume. Now they can hurt their resume as well. But I still think they can enhance it. And some people believe like it's so far out. Oh, man, they're 15, 20, 30 teams from consideration. I'm here to tell you that's not the case. Entering tomorrow, that's not the case. They're maybe a last team in or 2, or one of the first 3, 4, 5, 6 teams out. But that's where San Diego State is right now, with, again, tons to still play for. We're only at basically the halfway point, because the Aztecs are 6-0 in the Mountain West, which means they have at least 14 regular season games and 1 Mountain West tournament game to play. That's 15 games. And they've only played 16 games so far this year. All right, we can get back to it, and we will, coming up in the final couple hours of the show. Again, that's tomorrow. San Diego State, New Mexico at 5 o'clock with pregame coverage at 4 p.m. On the other side, though, we will get to the wrap. So we'll get to that coming up on the other side. In addition, Greg Camarillo from Football Night in San Diego and NBC7, former NFL wide receiver, friend of the show, our NFL insider. He joins us every Friday. He'll join us coming up at 4:30. You'll hear from Mike Faren, MLB Network Radio, at 5 p.m. And then again, Caleb Davis, San Diego State football GM. If you missed our conversation yesterday, you'll hear that at 5:30. We have another giveaway for you coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, another $50 gift card to 333 Pacific for San Diego Restaurant Week. We'll do that in about an hour or so. We're here until 6 p.m. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by eBay. Get you caught up. We had a bunch of Major League Baseball free agency signings in the last day or so. Kyle Tucker signed with the Dodgers on a 4-year, $240 million deal. The Mets inked Bo Bichette to a 3-year, $126 million contract. And JT Realmuto is going to stay with the Phillies. He agreed to a 3-year, $45 million deal. Tomorrow night, the Aztecs are back home at Viejas Arena to take on New Mexico. Our pregame coverage starts at 4 o'clock. John will have the tip after 5. And Sunday afternoon, we have NFL division round action for you when the Rams take on the Bears. Pregame starts at 2:30. The kick is set for 3:30. Imagine what you can find on eBay, like a rare hologram trading card that you've become totally obsessed with, shiny like that designer handbag of your dreams. eBay has it. They even have the perfect parts that will fit your car. Millions of finds, each with a story. eBay.
All right, John Schaefer, Brent Sperry with you until 6. Greg Camarillo swings by in 30 minutes. We'll talk about the divisional round of the playoffs. You'll hear from Mike Faren, MLB Network Radio, good perspective on this Kyle Tucker deal to the Dodgers. You'll hear from Mike Faren coming up at 5. Caleb Davis, San Diego State football GM, if you missed that yesterday, you'll hear it coming up at 5:30. We also have a $50 gift card to give away to San Diego Restaurant Week. We'll do that coming up in the 5 o'clock hour as well. We should also remind you that Monday is MLK Day, right? So no show on Monday. It's a national holiday. It's also a company holiday at iHeart. So no show on Monday. We'll be back with you on Tuesday. Actually, we're with you tomorrow, though. It'll be San Diego State plays New Mexico, 5 o'clock, with pregame coverage beginning at 4 p.m. So we continue to react to the Kyle Tucker news. We'll continue to do that over the next 2 hours. But right now, let's get to this.
It's time for the wrap. Presented by Sombrero Mexican Food. Check out their website at sombreromex.com.
Who's the best remaining quarterback in the playoffs?
So this to me right now would boil down to, and this can change in the future, but I would think we would put it between Josh Allen and Matt Stafford. Like, I think that's fair. Everyone else has a lot to prove. Like the Bo Nixes and the Drake Mays and the Caleb Williams have a lot to prove.
Well, they're probably going to finish 1-2 in MVP voting too. So,
all right. So Stafford or Allen, who am I choosing from this point forward? I'm going to go with Josh Allen here. I'm going to go just the slight advantage to Josh Allen. I like this path a little more. I like playing Denver this weekend as opposed to playing in Chicago for the Rams. And I do think to some extent Allen is due, and Stafford's already gotten his. So I'm going to go with, I'm kind of like changing the question around. I don't know if Allen is better than Stafford, but I feel like this is the year that Allen breaks through. So I would take Allen, then Stafford for this postseason specifically. Next question.
Since we won't get a chance to talk about it because it's on Monday, who wins Monday's national championship game between Miami and Indiana? Still feels weird saying that.
It's really weird. I mean, it's hard to bet against Indiana. I'm hoping for a good game, like we said with the NFL playoffs. You don't always get it in college football. I mean, we've seen, what did we see? Georgia TCU in LA a couple years ago. That was just utter insanity. That was the worst game I've ever seen. TCU was awful in that game. They lose by 60 or 70 points. That was just an embarrassment. I think Indiana wins a close game, and I hope it's a close game. I just think they're better. I think they're the best team in college football. And I think even if Miami plays well, Indiana's probably a tick better than Miami. So I'm going to go 31-24. But let's do a score prediction. I'll say 31-24 Hoosiers in Miami Monday night. What do you think, Brad?
I think they're going to blow them out because they've blown everyone out.
They have.
I'm going to go 42-17 Hoosiers.
Yeah, I can see it. I could.
It feels like it's going to be obviously, though, if they win the national title, it'll be a win for them. But it's going to be almost a no win for Indiana because if Indiana wins, they're going to get labeled as, oh, well, it's because it's Miami sucked and the ACC sucked. Yeah. They had an easy road. And if Miami beats them, it's going to be like, buff. See, we've been telling you the whole year they're a fluke and they don't deserve to be there. And
I would say
that's why I hope they just blow them out.
The whole conference conversation narrative would definitely change if Miami won a national championship because the sport's been dominated by the talk about the Big Ten, the SEC running away. financially and otherwise, competitively as well. If a team out of the ACC wins the national championship, that at least changes the conversation to some extent.
You would think so, but they're still treating it like Dabo and Clemson won their titles like 80 years ago.
True.
Where that was, yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, but that was a little bit like pre-portal.
Yeah, that's true.
Pre separation.
Yeah,
It's almost like we've gone from
pre-NIL,
Power 5 to Power 2 with Big 10 and SEC, even though the ACC and Big 12 are kind of hanging around. Next question.
Would you take the Thunder or the Field to win the NBA Finals?
Thunder is still playing well. They got off to this ridiculous start. They hit a little bit of a rough patch, I would say, when they were playing the Spurs. I think they've lost 3 times to the Spurs. And because of that, I'm inclined to take the Field. Oklahoma City still have an amazing year. They could win close to 70 games. They're defending champions. But I think I'd be inclined to take the Field. And here's another reason to take the Field. Did you see Wembanyama last night, Brent? Bald Wemby? He's bald. And he looks 100 times better. He was already amazing. Now he's like the greatest player in the history of the world.
It's funny because, he went and like trained in Kung Fu with the Shaolin monks in the off season, kind of like Kareem, because Kareem hung out with Bruce Lee and stuff like that and learned Kung Fu. So it's almost like he's just transforming into like this generation's Kareem. I'm going to shave my head. I'm going to learn Kung Fu.
Go to ESPN.com and find Bald Wemby, because Bald Wemby hitting 5 threes in a game hits differently than Wemby with hair. But he's an incredible talent. And it's not just that he's a good talent, he's on a good team. And the Spurs have had the Thunder's numbers. So I would take the Field. Are you looking at it?
He kind of looks like Tim Duncan.
He does. Tall Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan was pretty tall. But tall Tim Duncan. Next question.
How good will Kyle Tucker be with the Dodgers?
Well, I thought you made the best point that he doesn't need to carry anything. He's not responsible for their offense being one of the tops in baseball. The collective is. So I think he'll fit in beautifully. I really do. I think he's a great hitter. I like watching Kyle Tucker I think he's a brilliant offensive weapon, and it's not because of the sheer power, but he does everything well, and he gets on base at a high clip. He hits for enough power, and he's a 900 OPS type player. So when you have protection in a lineup and you don't have to be anything other than yourself, and 25 home runs is good enough, and your 890 OPS is good enough, it only makes the whole team better. I think it's a really good fit. I'm sure he would have been a good fit with other teams as well. And it's, on one hand, I get it. It's like it was already hard. It was already hard going up against the Dodgers and their lineup and that rotation, the Shohei Ohtani dynamic, what he means to the sport and how he's able to impact games, obviously as a pitcher and as a hitter. And they just had. Roki Sasaki mattered last offseason. He did. He was very important for them in the postseason. Kyle Tucker is probably going to be more impactful than Roki Sasaki. Sasaki, was ineffective or hurt for most of the regular season before really emerging in the postseason. Kyle Tucker is a seasoned hitter. Like, he's not some guy that's going to need to get up to speed like a Roki Sasaki, who was a young pitcher that had a really high upside. But Kyle Tucker's in the middle of his prime, and he's got all the protection he needs. And again, with health, of course, the Dodgers are the favorite. There's no question that the Dodgers are going to be the favorite. It's a little bit like the Oklahoma City conversation. I just told you that I would take the Field over Oklahoma City. Someone asked me right now, would you take the day after the Kyle Tucker news? Would I take the Dodgers to win the World Series or the Field in baseball? I would take the Field because I just know how the sport works, and I think it's hard to win playoff series. I think even if they have we'll look at some of the analytics, like Zips projections when we get closer to the season. It may say the Dodgers have a 20 or 25% chance of winning the World Series. Well, guess what that means mathematically? They have a 75 or 80% chance of not winning the World Series. So again, I think it's easy in real time to look at it as this massive problem for the Padres in baseball. And I'm not here to tell you that it's not. Like, I'd prefer that the Dodgers didn't have Kyle Tucker. It obviously makes their path, easier by having Kyle Tucker. But let's just see. Just slow down for a moment. The Dodgers were supposed to win 100-something games each of the last 2 years. They didn't, but they did win the World Series. So they won the games that mattered at the right time. This year, I don't know if it's going to look similar to the last 2 years where they struggle to get to 95-plus wins. that they leave the door open in the division, but then they turn it on in the postseason? Or is this the year they put it all together in the regular season and win 110 plus games and also win in the postseason? But I mean, make no mistake, it's impactful. I mean, it's impactful for the Dodgers. It's impactful for the NL West. It matters if you're the New York Mets who thought they were going to land him and their fan base. They get the consolation prize of Bo Bichette. I'm not here to tell you that Kyle Tucker is just like he's just like a small piece. No, he's a big piece. And any team would be lucky to have him. And that includes the LA Dodgers. And I think we look at it, and I saw this a little bit yesterday, like, oh man, they overpaid for him. I'm glad it wasn't whomever. I'm like, but is there any such thing as overpaying when money is not an object? Like, money's no object to the LA Dodgers. So who cares if it's $240 million or $24 million?
That's an argument that I used to get into all the time with Brewers fans when they would talk about how they would bring up now former Padre, I almost called Brendan Hayward, but that was the Carolina guy, Jason Hayward,
yeah.
about how the Cubs overpaid for him. And I would sit there and try and tell them that, yeah, but the Cubs can afford to overpay for players because they have so much more money than everyone else. I was like, Milwaukee, you guys can't afford to overpay for somebody like that and have them not live up to expectations. If the Cubs do it, then oh well, they'll just move on. It's not that big of a deal. And it's kind of the same thing with this.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and Sammy Long, who was with us in the first hour of the show, made an interesting and accurate point, which is the Dodgers have the ability to miss, but double down. You know, when they miss on Tanner Scott, they can just go out and acquire another reliever in the offseason or at the trade deadline. If they were to miss on Kyle Tucker, they won't by and large. This isn't going to hamstring them so much that they can't win because they spent $240 million on Kyle Tucker. Plus, a lot of this, once again, I don't know the exact number, but some of it actually is deferred. Their deferrals are over $1 billion. That's a whole nother conversation. Their commitments in free agency, they had on ESPN earlier. What is it? They've committed $1.8 billion in spending over the last 3 years. You have 20 teams, including the Padres, that have not spent $1.8 billion combined since 1990. They've spent $1.8 billion in the last 3 years. You have 20 teams, saying it again, that have not spent a combined $1.8 billion since 1990. But guess what? It's like real life. Those billionaires are making a lot more than me and you, Brent, and our listeners. Like, rich get richer in life sometimes too. It doesn't make it equitable or fair, but that's how capitalism works, and it's how professional sports work to some extent as well. Certainly baseball, which does not have the salary cap that other sports have. And even with the cap, let's be honest, it's circumvented in sports, including the NFL and in the NBA. All right, Greg Camarillo will join us at 4:30. Would love to get your thoughts on Kyle Tucker to the Dodgers. Our text line is open, 70470. You can start your message with the word team, or you can call us, 877-767-4760. That's 877-767-4760. We'll get to some of these texts and your phone calls on the other side, plus Greg Camarillo, football night in San Diego at 4:30 here on San Diego Sports 760. Right. We all remember that one teacher who made a difference, who believed in us, challenged us, or just made learning fun. Now's your chance to say thank you to Big Way with iHeartRadio's Thank a Teacher, powered by Donors Choose. Nominate an outstanding public school teacher who's gone above and beyond for their students to win $5,000 to stock their classroom with whatever they need. Today's teacher of the day, Sharon Wardell, teaches at Lexington Elementary, and who folks told us is dedicated to her students, many who are newcomers, and makes them feel valued and has a positive impact on each of them. Congrats to Sharon. You're in the running to win $5,000 to make over your classroom. Nominate your favorite teacher now at iHeartRadio.com/teachers. We'll give away a $50 gift card coming up at the 5 o'clock hour. And that is part of San Diego Restaurant Week, a $50 gift card to 333 Pacific. We'll do that coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Greg Camarillo will join us live at 4:30. We'll talk about the divisional round of the NFL postseason, which will kick off tomorrow. And then again, if you missed Mike Faren at MLB Network Radio, you'll hear that coming up at 5 p.m. A lot of the discussion today around Kyle Tucker, but I think it's about more than Tucker. It's like when you're bothered by something and then all of a sudden there's one more thing that puts you over the edge. It's like you're already having a tough day, and then you get the email from your boss like, oh, we're going to need you to come in as well tomorrow. And you're like, now, all hell breaks loose. That to me is what Kyle Tucker represents for baseball fans that aren't Dodgers fans. It's like, guys, we're already here. They already signed Shohei Ohtani to a $700 million deal. They already deferred $1 billion. They've already added Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts and Teoscar Hernandez and Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Roki Sasaki to a smaller extent. They've already won the World Series and the World Series before that. Like, they've already done all of that. So why is it that Kyle Tucker, who's a very good player, make no mistake, but he's not the best player in the LA Dodgers, but he's a very good player. This isn't this transformational moment in the history of the sport where everything now needs to change because Kyle Tucker is a Dodger. It's just not. Is there going to be that moment at some point moving forward? I'm here to tell you, no, it's not as simple as that. We're not waiting for a moment for the sport to change. That's not what we're waiting for. Kyle Tucker's contract doesn't change the next CBA. This isn't the reckoning that baseball fans have been seeking that aren't fans of the LA Dodgers. It's just not. All sports are unique to themselves. The NFL has advantages and disadvantages. It's as popular as any sport in this country, obviously. NBA, advantages and disadvantages with the structure. Sure, hockey and soccer to some extent are comparable to that. And then there's baseball. It's very easy to look at baseball and poke holes in the setup. Like, it's the easiest thing in the world to be like, well, hold on, let me get this straight. You got a team in Oakland, no longer, but you have a team that plays in front of 1,500 people in Sacramento, and then you have a team playing in front of 50,000 people in the largest media market or the second largest media market. You have one team with $300 million in TV revenue. You have other teams that make nothing, including the Padres. They make more than nothing, but you get the point. So there's inequities inherently in baseball. I would argue there's inequities everywhere. Everywhere you turn and look. Life, sports, it's just like a fact of life. You need to overcome them. Like, that's kind of the beauty of it to some extent. And it's not always the favorite that wins. It almost makes it sweeter sometimes when you are the underdog and you do something against all odds. Like, listen, is it easier to be a fan of the LA Dodgers than the San Diego Padres? You think? I mean, yeah. I mean, there's certain teams that just have it better than others. Imagine growing up in Boston in the 2000s. I mean, imagine right now if you're 35 and you rooted your whole life for the Red Sox, Patriots, Bruins, and Celtics. How many rings do you have? If you were born in 1990 and all of a sudden it's the 2000s and the Patriots era is here and the Bruins have had their run. The Red Sox have how many titles since they broke the curse? What is it, 3 or 4 at this point? Celtics have won multiple. This century. So, I mean, you'd have, add it up. I don't know what that number is, 15 or whatever it is. So some have it better than others. And I go back to something I said earlier. When it happens here, it's going to be sweet. It's going to be sweet. It's going to be sweeter. And it will happen one day here. And just because Kyle Tucker is on the Dodgers doesn't mean the Padres can't ever win a World Series. I mean, it's just like we said when we've said it throughout the course of time. I mean, I remember going into the 2022 postseason and I fought this narrative all year in 2022. Jim would make it all the time. Well, Dodgers are 13-5 against the Padres. Oh, Dodgers are 10 games up in the division. I mean, can't win in the postseason. I don't know if Jim said that exact thing, but I get that. I got that argument. But I'm like, just trust me. Just because you go 12-6 against someone in the regular season doesn't mean you're a guarantee to beat them in a best of 5 series in baseball. It's not as simple as that. And the Padres have had years where they've played the Dodgers well in the regular season. I think 2024 is an example of that. And then they lost in 5 games in 2024. So it's easy to oversimplify or overly simplify, but it's not as simple as now the Dodgers have Kyle Tucker. Trust me, they're guaranteed to win another World Series. And I hope I'm right when I say that. I'm not here to tell you the Dodgers aren't going to win the World Series in 2026, but I'm also not here to tell you that the Padres can't compete and contend in 2026. Now, to turn the page back to the Padres conversation, they have work to do, and you'll hear from Mike Faren coming up at 5 p.m. I forget exactly how he put it. He said they need multiple pieces, both in their lineup and in the rotation. I forget if he said 2 starters and 1 bat or 1 starter and 2 bats. I think he said 1 starter and 2 bats, and I buy that. It's like, forget about Kyle Tucker for a second. You still have a first base need. Forget about Kyle Tucker for a second. You still need a DH. Forget about Kyle Tucker for a moment and think about your rotation and your bench because you have a very good bullpen. So it's on AJ Preller to address the Padres' needs, not to catch up to the Dodgers. That's for another day, another moment. And maybe when you get to that moment, yes, it's head to head. When the Padres play the Dodgers in the postseason or in the regular season, yes, it's head to head. And you're comparing the qualities of one roster against the other. And it can be relevant. And the Padres and Dodgers have met in the postseason, 3 times this decade. So if it happens again, of course, we'll be talking about the differences between the Padres and the Dodgers. But right now, it's not really about that. The larger point is out there. Yes. Does baseball have a problem? Are the rich getting richer? Are the Dodgers bad for baseball? You can easily have that conversation. But truthfully, what matters heading into 2026 is what are the Padres going to look like? Can they build off 90 wins last year? Is Craig Stammen the right manager? Is Manny Machado going to put up numbers like he has as he continues to age? You get the point. Like, it's all about what are the Padres going to do, not what is Kyle Tucker going to do in his first year with the Dodgers. All right, back to the NFL divisional round with Greg Camarillo on the other side. Greg Camarillo, football night in San Diego, is going to join us coming up on the other side. His thoughts on just the state of, obviously, the divisional round, but more than that as well. John Harbaugh to the Giants, Jim Harbaugh, obviously out with the Chargers, and this weekend as well. So we'll get into that with Greg Camarillo on the other side. Mike Faren, MLB Network Radio at 5 p.m. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air. In Major League Baseball news, we had a bunch of free agency signings. Kyle Tucker agreed to a 4-year, $240 million deal with the Dodgers. The Mets and Bo Bichette agreed to a 3-year, $126 million contract. And JT Realmuto is going to stay in Philly. He agreed to a 3-year, $45 million deal. Tomorrow night, the Aztecs are back at home at Villas Arena to take on New Mexico. Our pregame coverage begins at 4. John will have the tip after 5. And Sunday afternoon, we have the NFL divisional round action for you when the Rams take on the Bears. Pregame starts at 2:30 and the kick is at 3:30. Choosing the right home service company isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's about trusting who's in your home. That's why homeowners count on Anderson for friendly professional service that keeps everything running right. Visit AndersonPHA.com.
Divisional weekend here in the NFL, and to catch up on it all, Greg Camarillo, he's been with us all season long, the former NFL receiver. You can catch him every weekend on Football Night in San Diego, NBC7 with Darnay Tripp and Rich Orenberger as well. And Greg, we appreciate you swinging by as always. I want to start with Bills, the Bills and the Broncos. And so how do you see this with Josh Allen? Because I know we're communicating back and forth. You see this as it's kind of all on Josh Allen's shoulders to potentially win this game in Denver?
Yep, there it is. Superman has to show up. Josh Allen needs to bring his cape, his lunch pail, his lucky dice, whatever it is, because everything's on him. And that's also what's carried him to this point, has been Josh Allen. But they lost 2 receivers to an already thin receiving core, lost 2 receivers last week to ACL. That's Gabe Davis and former Aztec Tyrell Shavers.
Yeah.
And they weren't that great at receivers to start with. So they've got Keon Coleman, who's been not as productive as a top draft pick as they would like. And they've brought in Brandon Cooks mid-season. They're not that deep at receiver. They're going to rely heavily on their tight ends. But what we saw last week was Josh Allen hit 9 different receivers, 9 different people that received passes, tight ends, running backs, receivers. And so that's the magic that Josh Allen needs to bring. And then, of course, Josh Allen with his legs. We saw a tush push trying to pick up 1 yard, picked up 10, and took him down to the goal line. Those are the things they are going to need if they're going to be victorious, because they're honestly just not as good of a team. And the biggest issue is Denver is an amazing team and has a great pass rush and has speed in their pass rush that can contain Josh Allen. They're great against the run. So James Cook is going to have some problems. The matchup says Denver. But if the only way Buffalo can pull it off is that Josh Allen is Superman, and he has the potential to do that.
Yeah, he certainly has the potential, and we'll see if he's able to display it this weekend. Greg Camarillo is with us right now on San Diego Sports 760. What's the Niners' path here this weekend? On the road in Seattle, 7-point underdog, dealing with all the injuries that they've had throughout the second half of the year.
Yeah, the path is if Sam Darnold gives them a pass. So we've seen Sam Darnold throw picks. It's what he does. He makes amazing plays, but he can also be a turnover machine. And so their only hope in my mind is if they get that version of Sam Darnold that is, just not making great decisions or making errant throws. And he has an oblique injury. They held him out of practice for a day. Not a huge concern, but maybe that's just the little bit, the change of his trajectory that causes an interception, or maybe he, can't sling it as fast because of his oblique injury, and that causes an interception. But the Niners, without George Kittle, they've reactivated Fred Warner for his opportunity to come back from IR, but I don't think he's going to play. And even if he did play, he wouldn't be a factor this week, maybe next week. I just don't see the Niners having enough firepower to keep up with a well-rested team coming off a bye in the Seahawks, and receivers like Jackson Smith and Jigba and their entire defense of the Seahawks. To me, it just seems like this is a one-sided game, and Seattle is an absurdly hard place to play. So I give the the odds makers give Seahawks a 7-point advantage, and that seems right because the Niners just have too much to overcome.
Yeah, it feels like the Niners are on their ninth life. You know, it's like winning in Philadelphia was impressive enough. Can you now double down on that on a short week again on the road? It just feels like you're asking a lot, not you, but people are asking a lot of San Francisco to keep doing what they did last week in Philadelphia. All right, Bears and Rams. Yeah, what do you got, Greg?
They got that win in Philadelphia against a team that Philadelphia hasn't been that great. Now, if A.J. Brown catches one of the 3 drops that 100%. He has, the Niners don't win that game. Jackson Smith and Jigba is not going to drop the balls like A.J. Brown did. And so, you know, the Niners have done great. They've had an amazing run with all those injuries, but I think it ends this week.
No, I think it's well said. So Bears-Rams, like on paper, looks like should be a really good game. How much of a factor do you put just the conditions? You know, Rams play indoors. This game's outside. Yeah. It's at night. It's going to be really cold. How much of an advantage is that for the Bears?
Oh, it's huge. It sounds miserable. The weather report this morning, I think it said 17 degrees with the wind chill all the way down to -8. Wow. Now that's miserable. I've done one football practice outside in Minnesota when it was like, I think 3 or 4 degrees. And it was like the most miserable I've ever been in my life when it comes to weather. -8 is that much worse. It's like you literally go out on the field, you're miserable, you come back, put a jacket on, they've got heated benches, they've got heated helmet racks, they have these jet propulsion heaters on the side, but none of it works. It's freezing. It's a huge advantage for Chicago. They're used to it. They live there. They might practice in some of it. Versus teams that live in LA, versus the Rams that live in LA, they play indoors. Like, you know, it's 80 degrees here in San Diego, and then you go to 8 degrees. That's just gross. But the best matchup that I'm most excited about, what seem to be very even teams, 2 teams that are strong at the run, 2 teams that can pass. The Rams have a better run defense, which I think will be a factor. And it's Matt Stafford, who is a magical quarterback and a guy you lean on. But that weather, that'll be a tough one. But I love the matchup. Exciting game. I'm not going to pick a team because I think it's a very even battle.
Yeah, it should be a really good game. Greg Camarillo is with us right now. Football night in San Diego on NBC7, the former NFL wide receiver as well. Then there's Pats and Texans. This is interesting to me because the Texans had never won a road playoff game until this past week. You got this Patriots team that came out of nowhere. Nobody expected this, obviously, this year at 14-3. How do you see this playing out?
Yeah, another good matchup. And it feels really weird to say this for a team that is in the second round of the playoffs. The Patriots don't have a signature win that proves that they are an amazing team. You know, the Texans, they went into Pittsburgh last week and blew them out, although Pittsburgh was not that great. Texans have taken down the 49ers in an important game. Yes, the Pats beat the Bills, but the Bills were up and down all season, so you never knew what team you're going to get. So to me, the Pats are unproven. It's again, odd to have a second-round playoff team with a team you could say hasn't really been tested, a team that was 14-3, so they clearly know how to win, but they haven't really been tested until this week, and the Texans defense is outstanding. So Drake May this is his real test. He seems like he's second in MVP rankings or odds at this point. This is where he has to show that that's what he's willing to earn, that ranking right there. I don't think the Pats are that great of a team. So, you know, the Texans have a great shot of going in there and winning. Again, a very tough environment to play, especially for an indoor team to come to New England and play outdoors in the playoffs. But a great matchup. And, you know, I like CJ Stroud and company, and let's see what the Pats got.
Yeah, and I love the Texans defense. I feel like the defense will travel and at least keep them in that game against New England.
Yeah, and cause some headaches for Drake May at that.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so obviously all these changes through Black Monday in the NFL. We've had, you know, we'll have a ton of changes, obviously, in terms of head coaches in the NFL in 2026. How much of a win is John Harbaugh to the Giants? I mean, this is massive for a franchise that's been down for the better part of the last 10 years, right?
it's a huge win, and it's a way that they instantly get culture, and it's what they've lacked. They've lacked culture, and that's why the team has struggled. So you get a guy that is proven. He knows his voice. He knows what he wants in a team. He knows how to handle a team. A young team instantly respects a coach that has been around for a long time. And then look at the talent that he can work with. He has Jackson Dart at quarterback, and so as long as he can stay healthy, which is a big if, he's shown that he can play. He can run. He can throw. He has the charisma of a team leader, especially one in New York under the big lights. Scatabo, who will be coming back from a gruesome leg injury, but he is a bowling ball, also with all the charisma, pizzazz that people love. Malik Neighbors, also coming back from injury, but a top pick, a wide receiver that has proven to be an outstanding wide receiver. So the pieces are there. And that's what it takes. You bring the culture in, you have the pieces, and those three guys that I mentioned are not on any sort of big contracts. They're all young draft picks. So there's room to go get some free agents. There's room to go build some pieces around that. And so that's what I love about that pick. You go get your coach that is a certified winner, and you put him with your young pieces, and you really should be instantly aiming for winning that division. You should be instantly aiming for a playoff push. Because that's what the NFL is these days. You hire a coach and you expect to turn things around instantly. And I think they got the right guy to do that.
Greg, before you go, obviously the Chargers making a change at OC after losing to New England. Again, lifeless on offense in the postseason, the last two trips under Jim Harbaugh. So Greg Roman is out. What do you make of that decision, and where do they turn for their next offensive coordinator?
Yeah, it just proves that in the NFL, the cutthroat business is Roman and Harbaugh have been together at multiple NFL stops. They were together at Stanford for college stops. So like they're boys, you know, you got to fire your boy. But in the NFL, it's about production, and the offense didn't produce. And now they were missing two starting running backs. They were missing two starting tackles. Like there wasn't much to produce with. But Coach Harbaugh said in his presser, a quote that I love, he said, "It's our responsibility to get up to his level," referring to Herbert. And we're continuously striving to do that. So he is fully aware that the team is not playing to the ability that their quarterback can be at. And we saw that. Herbert is amazing, but he's getting destroyed, and he's getting injured, and he's getting hurt and hit. Harbaugh said it best. We need to elevate everybody else to match Herbert. And so that's why you got to fire your OC, and you got to go find an OC that can make that work. And it sucks that Herbert has to change OCs all the time, because you play better with continuity. If you know an offense already, you can pick up the tiny little intricacies next year. You can pick up a little caveat the following year. It becomes more concrete. It becomes faster. You can play better. And so it's hard to switch OCs every year, but it's definitely the right move, because they've got an amazing talent in Justin Herbert. And they got to get the most out of him, and they haven't done so yet.
Still looking for that first playoff win, Justin Herbert, with the Chargers now under Jim Harbaugh. Greg, appreciate the time, the perspective. We are looking forward to this weekend, just massive, obviously. And then next weekend, we've got championship weekend in the NFL, so we'll do it again next Friday. But thanks, as always, for taking time for us.
All right, appreciate you, John.
All right. Always great to connect with Greg Camarillo, the former receiver in the NFL Football Night in San Diego on NBC7. All right, I want to hear from you, your reaction to the Kyle Tucker news that he's heading to LA. Our text line is open. Are the Dodgers bad for baseball? Is it fair or unfair? You can weigh in. 70470. Start your message with the word team. That's 70470. Start it with the word team. Mike Faren, MLB Network Radio, his thoughts at 5 p.m. Then we'll switch gears to San Diego State football. Caleb Davis, their general manager on portal season for the Aztecs. If you missed that, you'll hear it at 5:30. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. All right, Mike Faren, MLB Network Radio. You'll hear our conversation at 5 p.m. His thoughts on the state of baseball, the Kyle Tucker transaction as he signs with the Dodgers. Are the Dodgers bad for baseball? He'll answer that question. Plus, we want you to answer that question. 70470. Start it with the word team. We also remind you, San Diego Sports 760 has 13 chances to win $1,000 every weekday. It's the Bonus Bucks giveaway every hour, 6 a.m. through 6 p.m. Listen for the keyword, then enter it at sportssd.com. Next chance to win $1,000 coming up at 5 p.m. We don't typically go heavy on the text line, but I did ask for your reaction to the Kyle Tucker signing by the Dodgers. So I do want to get to some of your texts, so you can get those in right now. 70470 started again with the word team, like this text that rolled in that said, 619, when the Dodgers miss on signings, they sign someone new or they pull from their stocked farm system. It's unfair. Well, I mean, it's not unfair that they have a good farm system, is it? That's the work of their front office and player development team to have a good farm system. So I don't feel as if that part of it is unfair. The fact that they have more resources to spend with gives them an advantage. There's no question about that. We've made that point. I don't think the Padres can miss nearly as much as the Dodgers can miss, and that's where there's the additional onus on the Padres front office to get a lot of this right. Because while the Dodgers do have a good front office, they also have missed, and I think they can afford to miss more than other teams, and maybe every team outside of maybe like the New York Mets. Let's see a couple of more here. 619 says Padres get a loaded lineup, they cruise and don't make the playoffs. Dodgers get a loaded lineup and they perform. We're cursed. No, it's not as simple as that either. Obviously, it has nothing to do with a curse. If you're talking specifically about 2023, that proves the point that I've tried to make today, that there are no guarantees. I mean, is it inevitable that the Dodgers are going to be in the postseason in 2026? Yeah, they'll be in the postseason. Would it be utterly shocking if they weren't in the playoffs? Yes, it would be utterly shocking. But I would have told you heading into 2023, when the Padres were in the NLCS in 2022, that the Padres were primed to make another deep playoff run. I thought they were destined to get to a championship series or a World Series. They had Juan Soto for a full year, and they fell on their face. So, again, certain parts of sports are hard to predict, and that includes Major League Baseball. But, yeah, I mean, are the Dodgers going to make the postseason? Is that an inevitability? By and large, I would say yes, that's an inevitability. 619 says, what about Dodgers and Yankees or Mets skewing the market with overpaying from their coffers? It screws up arbitration as well. Arbitration, I think, is separate from free agency because arbitration dollars is collectively bargained. So it's not like because Kyle Tucker got $240 million, players are making more in arbitration. I don't think they're tied to each other. Now, I will say to the point of the texter that, yeah, that slots in players beneath Tucker. I mean, you see Bo Bichette signing today for whatever the terms were with the Mets as he slots in, or, you know, Dylan Cease got a fortune from Toronto. What was the number? $200 million from Toronto. I thought that would, you know, slot Michael King higher than he ultimately ended up, which is 3 years, 75. So it does matter from a free agent perspective. I don't think it's as impactful in the arbitration realm. A couple of more texts here. 619 says, the only reason Petco Park is packed every night is not because of Padres fans. It's because of all the transplants that live here that come to watch other teams. I completely disagree with that. Period. If we were in the middle of nowhere and not a big tourist and transplant town, that ballpark would be empty. I mean, yeah. And if I was 7'5", I'd be in the NBA with a good ball handling skills. And if I could shoot, I mean, that's absurd. First of all, Petco is as good of a draw as there is basically in the sport right now. Okay. They sell at as good of a clip as any ballpark, including Dodger Stadium. A higher percentage of seats are sold at Petco than at Dodger Stadium because Dodger Stadium is bigger. But that's a joke. I mean, when the Padres play the Reds, there's 0 Reds fans. The ballpark's sold out on a Wednesday. When they play the Diamondbacks, there's 0 Diamondback fans. The ballpark's sold out on a Tuesday. When they play the Marlins on a Monday night, the ballpark's sold out on a Monday. So are there fans of the Cubs when the Cubs play here? Guess what? There's fans of the Cubs when they play in Philadelphia. Are there fans of the Dodgers when they play here? Guess what? There's fans of the Dodgers in San Francisco when they play there. That's just how sports work. Have you watched the NFL? Why is it that when I watch the Chiefs play the New York Giants, the stadium's red? Because Chiefs have fans. it's a national sport. They're capable of drawing, and the same can be said to some extent in Major League Baseball as well. But give me a break. The only reason Petco Park is packed is because of visiting fans is a complete fallacy and couldn't be further from the truth. That's a terrible take. 619 says, cannot pretend it isn't just players versus owners in baseball. It's the players versus the fans. Players don't care. No, that's oversimplifying it as well. Of course they care. And to what extent do they care? That's like saying that the players don't care, but the owners do. I mean, everyone has their own interest at heart. The fans are thinking about it through a fan's lens. The players think about it through their union lens or from, through their set of eyes or shoes. Ownership, the same thing. But no, I don't think the players don't care about the game. I just think that the players union, is a strong one. And I think that, listen, does the players union go into a negotiation drawing a hard line? Yes, but so does ownership. And that's basically how these deals get done. 619 says, players' fault. Stop pretending it isn't. This is a ridiculous text from earlier. No player worth $10 million. Overrated and pampered. And NBA, those lazy pieces of, I can say crap, right? Load management. Check the load in your wallet and get your backside on the floor. No one lays defense or plays defense anyways. They all just stand at half court and watch a teammate shoot a three and turn around. No effort in rebounding. That's the most bizarre text ever. What do you mean nobody is worth $10 million? We live in a free society where capitalism is king. Does Brad Pitt deserve $30 million to be in a movie? So it's all like a free market system. So you're worth what someone is willing to pay you. So, is Stephen A. Smith worth $11 or $12 million a year? Well, he is, because that's what he's commanded in an open market. Is Kyle Tucker worth $60 million a year? According to the Dodgers, the answer is yes. So, I think this is the same guy that sent the text about the only reason Petco is packed because of transplants, which was also a dumb take. 858 says, the biggest problem is with the A's and the Pirates ownership, not the Dodgers. That's the other way to look at it. And we did talk about that a little bit earlier, which is like, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. We can't force the Pirates to try harder, even if they had to spend more. Because consider this, even in sports with caps, there are poorly run organizations. Did the cap fix the Cleveland Browns? Is the cap going to fix the Charlotte Hornets? Because there's been a cap in basketball for forever, and the Hornets always suck. And there's been a cap in football for forever, and the Browns always suck. So just because you cap the system doesn't mean all of a sudden everyone's on a level playing field. And by the way, you can't undo this. The Dodgers team is not changing because of a salary cap that, by the way, is not going to be in the sport in 2027. And even if it was, the Dodgers will still be able to navigate it, because there's no way it wouldn't be grandfathered in with the work they've already done. They're not going to have to sell off parts because of the new CBA in 2027. 619 says the most frustrating thing about the Dodgers spending is they get, I read that earlier. So we can get to some more of your texts as well in the 5 o'clock hour. 70470 started with the word team. And then 619 says Petco is hands down by far the best atmosphere in baseball year over year. This from a Philly-born San Diego transplant, Padres season ticket holder, no doubt, no brainer. It's an amazing atmosphere. It's absurd what they've built at Petco Park. Truly absurd. It's like one of the wonders of the world, the way the Padres draw downtown in San Diego. It seriously is. All right, Mike Faren, MLB Network Radio, his thoughts on Kyle Tucker to the Dodgers, the state of Major League Baseball. That is on the other side. Plus, we're giving away a $50 gift card coming up in the 5 o'clock hour to 333 Pacific for San Diego Restaurant Week. One more hour. Stay with us. San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.
The support is sponsored by eBay. Getting you caught up on Major League Baseball free agency signings. Kyle Tucker signed with the Dodgers to a 4-year, $240 million deal. The Mets inked Bo Bichette to a 3-year, $126 million contract. And JT Realmuto signed with the Phillies to stay in Philadelphia for a 3-year, $45 million deal. Tomorrow night, the Aztecs are back at home at Viejas Arena to take on New Mexico. Our pregame coverage with Sammy starts at 4 o'clock. John will have the tip after 5. And Sunday afternoon, we'll have the NFL divisional round for you when the Bears take on the Rams. Pregame starts at 2:30. The kick is at 3:30. Imagine what you can find on eBay, like a rare hologram trading card that you've become totally obsessed with. Shiny like the designer handbag of your dreams, eBay has it. They even have the perfect parts that will fit your car. Millions of finds, each with a story. eBay.
All right, we are giving away this hour a $50 gift card to 333 Pacific for San Diego Restaurant Week. We'll do that coming up actually before 5:30, so don't go anywhere. We'll do that in the next 30 minutes. Now, if you missed Mike Faren, MLB Network Radio, great insight on the state of baseball, the Kyle Tucker signing. And before we got anywhere, of course, we started the conversation by letting Mike know that Jim no longer works here.
Yeah, I heard that Jim left. I actually saw some of what he said in his goodbye, but I didn't fully know. But I'm bummed. I love Jim. I'm sad that he's gone, but I hope everything is good with him and his wife, and that they enjoy Philadelphia.
Yeah, you're the one.
JT Realmuto's back. So
yeah, Realmuto's back, and again, you're the one that is going to miss Jim. I'm kidding. All right, so John Schaefer, Sammy Long is with me today. Mike Faren, MLB Network Radio, with us right now on San Diego Sports 760. I haven't heard your perspective on this, so I'm just curious. I guess the 30,000-foot question, we've definitely asked you this before we get to Kyle Tucker specifically. When someone asks you, are the Dodgers bad for baseball, what's your reaction?
No, I don't think so. Right. I mean, they're bad. They're not bad for baseball. I mean, I think first of all, from an entertainment standpoint, right, you need somebody to root against, and certainly they seem to have cornered the market on that here of late. But this is past is prologue, right? So this is not all that different than what we saw in the late 90s or the early 2000s with the Yankees, right? They had every free agent. They had a good run where they won 4 out of 5, and then they got old and they didn't have as much success, and they would win pennants and lose in the World Series, and everybody would cheer and celebrate, right? So, this is probably a similar path to what LA is on. And, I saw this study. I'd like to see the research updated, but we may have talked about this a year ago, when the Dodgers were adding, Sasaki, and they added everybody in the bullpen. I think it was after the Tanner Scott signing, right? Which is the last time everybody was clutching pearls over the Dodgers. Somebody did a look, and the percentage difference between the number 1 and number 2 payroll team in 2000 was vastly wider than it is now. And same between 1 and 30. And it's just the dollar figures are much different. Then it was probably a $3 or $4 billion industry. Now it's a $14 billion industry. So, it's a really convenient way for ownership to get a little bit of press on their side to get a salary cap, which doesn't necessarily create all the parity that I think fans want, that the NFL has done a great job of marketing on. Also, it's a far more complicated system with baseball because so much of the revenue is tied up in local revenue and they don't share as much. So, all of this is I get it. And I think it's fair for a lot of small market teams and small market fans to be really upset with the fact that the Dodgers keep adding all these star players. Not that small market teams are going to, but it gives you that sense that you can't compete. I don't know that that's entirely realistic. I mean, I think certainly the Brewers who are in the smallest market had the best record in baseball a year ago. So I do think that small market teams can compete, and I think that there are small market teams that can become revenue juggernauts. See the Padres, San Diego, who are revenue sharing payors. They aren't receiving revenue sharing because they've made so much money from basically the fact that they sell out Petco every night because they've packed the place so people can see Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado and all of these stars. So I don't take a whole lot of stock in the easy sports talkish answer of like, this is the worst thing that ever happened. There'll be something else worse tomorrow, I promise. If the Bears lose to the Rams on Sunday, it'll be worse.
There's been a lot of reaction online kind of piggybacking on that of people being like, I don't even want to go to games. I'm just tired of a kind of one big bad team. Do you think it's better for baseball's ratings when there is a Yankees, a Dodgers that everyone's rooting against, or do you like it when there's more parity?
Well, I mean, listen, like look at the postseason ratings the last 2 years, right? Like they've been pretty big, and I don't think it's any surprise that it's not just that the Dodgers are there; it's that they are there with Shohei Ohtani. You know, like they have the biggest star in the game, and he's on that platform. Furthermore, like just part of the Dodgers' revenue, I know everything gets tied to their television contract, but they are making a ton of money internationally because Ohtani is a massive star in Japan. Well, you know, Ohtani offered a similar version of what the Dodgers signed him for to the other teams that were in the mix, Toronto, San Francisco, right? All it would have taken is somebody saying, okay, well, let's do $800 million. And maybe it pushes the Dodgers to a point where they get uncomfortable with something like that. But they're able to make money because of Ohtani, too. And let's face it, they're a desirable location, right? It's not just because they're winning. It's not just because they're spending, but their infrastructure is so good. Like what they're doing to take care of the families of players, like what they do in player development, what they do to help players get better, like all of it is unrivaled right now. And that to me is the secret sauce of the Dodgers, that they spent a decade building that kind of infrastructure that when they needed to go out and spend in free agency, when their homegrown talent was getting to free agency and they had to make the choices and they had to bring in external players, that it created a great environment for them to walk into. And you know, Kyle Tucker wants to play on a winning team in the same way. I've seen this on Twitter a lot, and I think it should be. I don't think it's like it should be a knock on him. It's like Kevin Durant when he went to the Warriors, right? Like he wanted to win, that team's winning. So like, what's the difference? And so that to me is more of what's going on with LA.
I always make this point. By the way, Mike, I completely agree with your first point about is it bad for baseball? We spent the first 30 minutes. I kind of listen. We do San Diego sports talk, and I cover the Padres for a living. But I have to be honest, and I didn't blame it on the Dodgers. There's things at play that go beyond the Dodgers. There's things at play across all sports. I think it's too easy to just be like, you know what? Why watch? Guaranteed three-peat. That's just not how the sport works. We've had you on before where you're like,
no.
What are the percentages even of the Dodgers in any given year, even if they are, quote unquote, the best team of winning the World Series? I mean, it's not like they have some 80% chance of winning a World Series. Shoot, a 10 or 20% chance is a high percentage chance to win a World Series, but that leaves 80% for the other teams. And look back at 24 and 25.
That's right.
You know, I mean,
that's right.
I don't know if they were left for dead, but the Padres failed to take advantage in 24. Look at 25. The Blue Jays didn't capitalize when given opportunities in game 6 and 7, right?
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. I mean, you're right. Like if a team has like a 15% chance to win the World Series in projections, like that's really high.
Yeah.
But you're right. It makes it the 85% chance that they're not going to. We've talked about the nature of the playoffs before and all of that, but like you've seen it firsthand, right? It's not like the Dodgers have run away with the division the last 2 years.
True.
You know, it's not just the playoffs. They haven't run away with the division. In fact, I think you can make the argument, despite the fact that they have 3 Hall of Famers in the front part of their lineup, that these were 2 of the weaker Dodger teams of the last decade, right? At least in terms of record compared to what they did in the league. Heck, the best team they may have had was probably the one that lost the division to the Giants, you know, in 2021. So I don't know that I'm, you know, like I think that this is a lot of it is just reacting to what's happening. And listen, it's a huge number for Kyle Tucker, right? Like Kyle Tucker making $60 million and like 57 in present day value is an obscene amount of money, right? But it's also like the Mets offered him $55 million in present day value, right? Like the Blue Jays probably could have gone to this, and it's not like the Blue Jays were some plucky upstart in the postseason, right? The top 7 in payroll. So I don't know, man. Like I think a lot of it. The Dodgers are in the crosshairs right now. I'll ask you, if Tucker had signed this exact contract with Toronto, are we having this conversation today about how bad the Jays are for baseball?
Of course not.
Yeah.
No chance. Yeah. Exactly right.
Where do you look for the Padres to go after they lose out on Arenado?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a weird fit anyway because the bat just isn't a first base bat. I don't know. Like we just did our team audit. Like we're going through each organization, right? And we did our Padres one yesterday. And man, it's thin on the position player side, but just like from a depth standpoint. So I don't know. I mean, I think AJ Preller is trying to be as creative as possible. That they're okay rotation wise at least in terms of depth. Like they've got a couple of options outside of the 5 that they have right now. I know it's not the sexiest group, but it should be okay. I'd still love to see them add like a starting pitcher and 2 bats to this mix. And if they're not going to be given a whole lot of financial resources, I'm not entirely sure how they do it. But if there's one guy who can figure it out, it's Preller. You know, I think they need a power bat, which would be easy to slot in at first, right? That some preferably one I think that hits from the right side, and I think that they need some better bench pieces. But that's kind of where they're at right now. And I, you know, there's not like, if you could sign Reese Hoskins, I know he's not maybe the sexiest name at this point, but great dude, power hitter, draws walks. Like I would be signed up for that if you could find a contract that worked for Hoskins, and he would fit a lot of what they need. If they wanted a utility guy like Luis Rengifo, who's still out there, who had a pretty bad year with the Angels, but has been a pretty good player overall and is a little bit younger than some of the other free agents, right? He's a switch hitter, can play all over the field. Like those are guys that I would like to see them add to the mix. I just don't know if they have that ownership is going to give them the modest payroll that they need above what they've already spent to be able to add that group.
My last question for you, Mike, and Mike Faren will be Network Radio with us right now in San Diego, is, you know, I think a lot of people were pleasantly surprised to see them, you know, re-up Michael King. But then the other side of that, and now Joe Musgrove's coming back from Tommy John, obviously encouraging. But I guess the other side of it is we have to remember King last year only 15 starts. I don't know if the innings in front of me, but I think it was under 100. And then Musgrove, of course, didn't pitch last year, but a lot of guys have come off Tommy John. As in, I think on paper you say, wow, they got King, they got Musgrove, everything's fixed. But I mean, what's reasonable for King in innings and what's reasonable for Musgrove in productivity in 2026?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I mean, I think King providing innings similar to what he did in 2024 is certainly possible. He needs to stay healthy. I think Musgrove, like I'm less concerned about the number of innings that Musgrove throws and more about the quality of them, because there's going to be some fits and starts in the first half of the season. I think, you know, I don't know that it'll be quite as extreme, but like watch Sandy Alcantara the first half of last year, and it was really inconsistent. In the second half, he started to look, you know, like the Cy Young Award winner that he was for the Marlins before. And that's pretty similar timetable to when Musgrove had the surgery, right? So I would think that there's some inconsistencies there. And you know, like I like Randy Vasquez a little bit as a back end starter, but I like him if he's throwing 94, 96, not 90 to 92 like he was through the first half of last year. So yeah, I mean, I think that's where that depth has to come in. And Kyle Hart's maybe not the sexiest name, but he's, you know, he can get you some of the innings. And I think Matt Waldron is a better pitcher than what he showed last year. So there's some of that to it. But you're right. I mean, that's probably where they need a little bit more depth. And they also, like, they have the one luxury that a lot of other teams don't, especially if Jason Adam can come back healthy, in that their bullpen is just a lot better than everybody else's. Like the options, like their 4th best option is better than most teams' best option, right? Like they just, like their best option or their 4th best option may not be better than the Dodgers' best option in Diaz and Edwin Diaz, but it would be their 2nd best option. And it's better than any option that Arizona is going to have and better than any option that the Giants are going to have. So that's a huge strength that the Padres can either use to deal from to try and fill some of these needs, which they seem reluctant to, and understandably so, but also reduce the burden of what they get out of that starting rotation.
Love the insight, Mike. Really do. If you want to co-host with me in San Diego, just do that, please. Mike, appreciate you. And Jim will be doing the Phillies wrap-up show, I'm sure, soon, or you know, the Philly version of Jon and Jim. But thanks, Mike, for doing it. We'll catch up again soon.
Does he yell enough to be on WIP?
No, probably not. He'd be too positive. He gets ripped for being the most negative guy ever here. He'd be way too positive in Philadelphia. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you.
All right, take care.
All right. Good stuff from Mike Faren, again, MLB Network Radio. All right, on the other side, we are going to give away that $50 gift card. We're going to give away a $50 gift card to 333 Pacific for San Diego Restaurant Week. We continue to react to Kyle Tucker, to the Dodgers, what it means for the Padres and baseball. Plus at 5:30, Caleb Davis, San Diego State football general manager, on the transfer portal comings and goings for the Aztecs. Stay with us here on San Diego Sports 760. All right, back with you. We're going to hear from Caleb Davis, San Diego State football general manager at 5:30. Do I have any more reads to do? Aztecs back at Viejas tomorrow at 5 p.m. against New Mexico. Pregame coverage at 4. I've got the tip for you just after 5 p.m. Sammy Long on pregame on your home for the Aztecs, San Diego Sports 760. We'll give away that $50 gift card for San Diego Restaurant Week to 333 Pacific in about 5 minutes. I shouldn't even reference this article, Brent. It's like 3 days old. You haven't seen it. It somehow came across my timeline. And someone else referenced this to me today, and I didn't understand it, but now I know why. There's an article at Forbes, Forbes.com, and we've had writers from Forbes on before. I'm trying to remember that someone we've had a ton. Anyway, Barry Bloom is writing for Forbes. I mean, it's like like freelance writing online. Here's the headline of the article. And this is probably 2 days old. What Joe Lacob's interest in the Padres means for the team's future. And the whole article is on the premise of the Padres lease at Petco basically doesn't tie them to San Diego and they could leave. And I'm like, I don't even want to entertain this because it's counterintuitive to my brain to even discuss the idea of the Padres not being in San Diego. They sold out 72 games. They sold 3.2 million seats, the most in the history of the franchise. How many more desirable markets / ballparks are there in the country? It's not even worth discussion. And I never would if not for this article that was written. I'm giving it fuel for no reason. I mean, there's a couple of things in here that are at least, interesting, I guess. Like this idea that the lease that the Padres are on when they entered the ballpark in 2004 is a 30-year lease. But it also could be shorter than that, like if all the debt is paid down before then. Also, there was no scenario where in the first 22 years they could move. There was no scenario, no world, no mechanism to get them out. Well, guess what? It's been 22 years. And then at 30 years, there's a little more flexibility. But to me, one of the key here in the Padres being for sale is that this is a desirable market. Like if you're a potential ownership group, you would come here because you can make money here, because you can win here, because you have the support here. This has only become a better baseball market in the absence of the Chargers. Nobody wanted to see the Chargers leave, but now that they've been gone for 9 years, this has become one of America's best baseball markets. I've said this a lot. Padres have passionate, knowledgeable fans. They're drawing at this ridiculous clip, surpassing massive markets, drawing more than in cities like Philadelphia or Chicago or in like Anaheim with the Angels. So it just doesn't make any sense. So I'm not going to make it make sense. And I completely discount the idea that, well, if Joe Lacob bought them, that they could move to the Bay Area because Oakland left and they're going, just stop. Like, again, it's like we write whatever we want to write and, it warrants clicks and discussion. And we're in this world where everyone has to have an opinion and a hot take. Here's the right take. The Padres are meant to be in San Diego long term. And Petco Park solidified that 20 years ago. And it's only been further solidified based on the support of the franchise here in the decade of the 2020s. Is it true that they're exploring a sale? Yes. They've said it publicly. Guess what? Padres have been sold before and not moved. A lot of organizations have been sold before without moving. I would argue that the next ownership group of the Padres has two huge advantages. A, they're going to make a lot of money long term. And B, I think you can win. I think there's enough revenue sources here where you can invest it in the team. That's been proven over the last 5, 6, 7 years, and you can win. And hopefully eventually bring a World Series to San Diego. But anyway, I didn't write the article. Barry Bloom did. What Joe Lacob's interest in the Padres means for the team's future. If I'm Joe Lacob, who's the owner of the Warriors, if I'm buying the Padres, I'm doubling down on the Padres in San Diego. You got this ridiculous mecca of a ballpark. You've got this absurd fan support, and you've got marketable stars littered on your roster. That to me is a perfect storm of sorts. So stop at the long-term viability of the Padres in San Diego. I would say that 25 of the teams in the sport would prefer to be in San Diego than where they are, truthfully. Somewhere in that neighborhood. Maybe 20 of the 30 teams would prefer to be in San Diego than Cincinnati, would prefer to be in San Diego than Cleveland, Baltimore, Miami, Pittsburgh, Milwaukee. You get the point. So I think it's a desirable market, and I think it'll be that way for a long, long time. And I think Petco Park's a crown jewel. And I think, with maintenance, the way they've taken care of that thing, I think it's going to be the home of the Padres for the next, 30 plus years, potentially, truthfully. So anyway, I entertained it, even though we probably shouldn't have really entertained it. All right, call right now. Caller 5. You've got a $50 gift card to 333 Pacific for San Diego Restaurant Week. That's 877-767-4760. Great giveaway. 877-767-4760. Caller 5. You've got a $50 gift card to 333 Pacific. It's San Diego Restaurant Week. They're going to invite you to dine out at over 100 restaurants from Oceanside to Chula Vista, January 25th through February 1st. Book your reservations at SanDiegoRestaurantWeek.com. You've also won a pair of tickets to the special screening of Mercy, only in theaters January 23rd. You can see a screening in IMAX 3D Wednesday, January 21st, next week at 7 p.m. Ed Edwards, Mira Mesa. Caleb Davis, San Diego State's football general manager, on the transfer portal craziness for the Aztecs on the other side on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by eBay. Major League Baseball news. We had a bunch of signings here in the last day or so. Kyle Tucker signed a 4-year, $240 million deal with the Dodgers. Bo Bichette signed a 3-year, $126 million deal with the Mets. And JT Realmuto signed a 3-year, $45 million deal to stay in Philadelphia. Tomorrow night, the Aztecs are back at home at Viejas Arena to take on New Mexico. Our pregame coverage starts at 4 o'clock. John will have the tip after 5. And Sunday afternoon, we have the NFL divisional round for you when the Rams take on the Bears. Pregame starts at 2:30. Kick is at 3:30. Imagine what you can find on eBay, like a rare hologram trading card that you've become totally obsessed with, shiny like that designer handbag of your dreams. eBay has it. They even have the perfect parts that will fit your car. Millions of finds, each with a story. eBay.
All right, Brent's back page coming up. Again, Aztec Hoops tomorrow at 5. Pregame coverage at 4. Find Sammy Long pregame on your way into Viejas Arena. You could enter to win a signed basketball by Aztec head coach Brian Dutcher. He'll be on the air from 4 to 5. I'll be on the air for the call beginning at 5 p.m. Aztec football, the transfer portal closes technically tonight, I think at 9 p.m. Pacific, but they've done their work. Caleb Davis is the general manager for San Diego State football. If you missed our conversation yesterday, I think we started just with the craziness, what this last few weeks has been like for Caleb Davis in his position with the portal.
First off, it's a mad rush. So you got to have all hands on deck, everyone in the program, of just being able to attack it within the right process. Like this whole process, even though, again, it's a mad rush, you get really 15 days to completely rebuild or retain your roster. It starts 3 months ago. So we started evaluating potential portal kids way back midway through the season. We started having conversations with our guys during the bye weeks and had a pretty good hold on things as we started to get into December before the bowl game, and had a grip of where we would be at. And then the moment the portal opens, it's just, it's a mad rush to fill the roster. So you got to have a good plan, because if you don't, you end up getting your guys poached. You end up losing out on your top guys. So we were able to execute a really, really hectic plan, but was able to add a whole bunch of guys into the roster for next year.
All right. So I want to get into some of these specifics. And Caleb Davis, San Diego State's general manager, is with us right now on San Diego Sports 760. Let's start with some of the retention pieces. I mean, I thought this was critically important for San Diego State's success in 2025, holding on to some of the core players from a team that went just 3-9, but we saw the results obviously on field. This year, there's so many, but just to name a few: the Lucky Suttons, the Dale-Sean Staleys, obviously Jaden Danicle, the quarterback, announcing he's back, Joe Bourgeon, Jordan Napier comes to mind. There are others I'm not mentioning, obviously. How do you feel about what you were able to retain from 2025 heading into 2026?
I mean, I think we were able to do it at a really, really high level, because that's the separator at this level is, can you retain your best players? And, there are some where Trey White, you look in the eye and it's like, dude, I love you. You got great opportunities. Like there's no harm there. But just off my count, we were able to retain, I think, about 15 starting caliber players that played over 250 reps for us this season. So to be able to do that at our level and add on top of that, I think it sets a great floor, but also gives you the ceiling for the future, especially when you account for a guy like Dale-Sean Staley that did see what's out there and then decided, no, I want to stay, be a hometown hero and represent this great program. I think it just sets us so far ahead from the baseline of the rest of our competition. It lets us have a sense of continuity going into the next season.
Caleb Davis with us right now. Again, he's been one of the busiest people in San Diego the last couple of weeks, building this San Diego State roster for 2026 and beyond. You mentioned Trey White in the portal off, back-to-back magnificent years on the Mesa. Owen Chambliss, obviously, departing as well. How do you replace players of that caliber? I mean, on one hand, well, obviously Trey White and Owen Chambliss made a name for themselves here on the Mesa. You're obviously looking for the next versions of those players moving forward, right?
Absolutely. And you're trying to do it in the aggregate too, because we're not going to replace Trey White by adding one kid. We're not going to replace Owen Chambliss by adding one kid. But if we can do it, we were able to get 3 different edges into the program to replace both Trey, Ryan Henderson, and Niles King, who's graduating. And I think it starts from a talent perspective, but you got to hit on character too. Like our biggest hit of losing them isn't necessarily the talent, it's the leadership aspect. So we were very, very particular about recruiting team captains and guys that were on state championship teams in high school and guys that were on great college programs. So we were able to hit on not just the athletic talent, because we can all see that flipping on the tape, but can you hit on the character? And that's the toughest thing in the portal, is how do you identify the right fits from that aspect? And I think that was the one thing I was probably most proud of than anything.
I want to talk about some of these newcomers, and we can speak in generalities or specifics, but one of the players that I think has been intriguing and you've heard a lot of discussion about from Aztec fans is a quarterback that's coming into the program. It's Stone Saunders. Played at Bishop McDevitt, Eastern Pennsylvania. I know Matt Johnson played there for Sean Lewis previously. This guy, you just look at the numbers in high school, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know this possible to compile those type of numbers. Was at Kentucky. How does this process play out where you've got this, P4 quarterback that's one of the most prolific passers in the history of the state of Pennsylvania? How does he end up at San Diego State?
Absolutely. That's one where you lean on relationships and the people you know. So exactly like I hit on, team captains and the known commodities, Coach Matty J, Coach Johnson, he played at McDevitt. I believe they had the same high school football coach. And I'm pretty sure he's known Stone since about middle school. So that was one where, again, you lean on known commodities. There were a lot of different, quarterbacks that wanted to come in and compete for spots in that room. And he was one where you lean on the known factors and you're able to get a kid like that we know is a leader, we know is a prolific passer. Like, he's going to have a chance to do some special things in this program.
I just look at in terms of, the volume of additions. Caleb Davis is with us right now. And there's a couple of areas, obviously, you knew you needed to replace a lot in the secondary. And you also knew you needed to replace a lot or potentially bring in more receivers as well, with a couple of your receivers returning but coming off injury. Just, I guess, in general, what do you think of what you're able to do? Let's start with the receiver rooms. It seems like, and I don't have it all in front of me, but you've had 4, 5, 6 additions, right, via the portal, including an Oregon transfer as well.
Yep. I think I can kind of hit on 3 of our main things we want to do. Number one being, I believe we have the best play calling coach in America in Coach Lewis, and he just needs the weapons. He just needs, if he's got the chess pieces, I think we've got the ability to put up 35, 40 points a game. So that was one of the things that was top of mind. I think we were able to get some true difference makers there with Justice Lowe coming, who started games at Oregon for him, and Aldrich Doe. He's a 6'3" long, fast receiver out of Bryant, and Marshall Sanders, who was a JUCO all-conference kid that is another super talented. But even Javian Kennard, a young running back that had, I think, 200 yards receiving out of the backfield at Colorado State. We just got some talent there that can be used in so many different ways. And when you add in what we already have retained that's coming back from the receiver room and from the offense room, I just think it gives Coach Lewis a chance to create that explosive offense with explosive playmakers, and really amplify what we've wanted to do the last couple of years.
Yeah, it seems like one of the best receiving rooms, certainly in this new Pac-12, probably outside of the P4 heading into 2026. I mentioned the secondary as well. I would think it's not a tough sell. I mean, you look at all the players that have come through San Diego State to play professional football that have played in a secondary, including look at Chris Johnson, obviously, who's on his way for the NFL come this spring. What were you and Coach Sumler and his staff hoping to address? What type of player were you looking for to fill out some of those needs?
I think the number one thing we hang our hats on is production. There's a lot of super talented kids that don't produce. And then even when they transfer to lower levels or different places, they still don't produce because, again, there's a production issue. So I believe we went out and got the 2 best FCS corners in the country, in Jason Oliver and Caleb Ricks, who both have length, both have production. They were the highest rated, PBUs, forced incompletion rate in the country. And they have genetics where Jason was at Colorado out of high school, played as a true freshman, and Caleb, his older brother, was a 5-star corner at LSU and Alabama before he got drafted in the NFL. Like, we've got some true production combined with the ceiling and the traits to where I believe both at their best could be NFL cornerbacks one day.
Tell us about how you were able to do this. I know the community played a large role, right? The Finish the Climb campaign
Absolutely.
that it contributed at least $2 million or more in the rev share total. That obviously is critically important for the Aztecs moving forward. Tell us about the support of the community and what it meant to building this team.
Absolutely. None of this, not a single piece would have been possible without everything that the city of San Diego was able to do for us. And that goes from the alumni base to the donor base to even every single season ticket holder and fan that even purchased tickets to one of our home games this year. So we are forever grateful. I think we had a good plan, but we were only able to execute it because of the support we had with our city and with our community. So we're fired up to keep on enhancing this thing and hopefully spread some cheer, get these season ticket sales going, because I really do believe next season is going to be one of the most special seasons in San Diego State football history. And I'm excited to celebrate it with our city, the greatest city in America.
And we received some amazing scheduling news yesterday. San Diego State James Madison is an incredible non-conference game at Snapdragon Stadium this September. The Dukes, of course, were in the college football playoff this past year, and San Diego State, obviously one of the top teams in the group of 6 heading in to 2026. Let me ask you this before you go, because I don't even know where is the portal closed and are you done? You can't be done. There's no way you're done. Is this thing done or is there still work to be done?
So the portal closes tomorrow at midnight. So we feel good. We built, again, it all goes back to building good, honest relationships with the guys on your team. So feel great about everyone we have in the building. We have one more official visitor that's actually on campus right now that fingers crossed we'll be getting good news here over the next 24 hours. And then that should wrap it up just about for the 2026 San Diego State Aztecs football team.
Man, tough day to visit. 75 and sunny. Man, it's a tough man. I've been. It's so funny during the portal, Caleb. I don't know if you do the same with your position. I'm looking at the weather. The weather's been amazing while this portal season's been open. I'm like, that's got to be benefiting Sean Lewis and Caleb and the efforts. It doesn't get better than San Diego in January.
I think it benefits my livelihood more than anything. Being a Midwest guy out here, this is my first California winter, and I'm never going to complain about 75 and sunny in January.
Let me ask you this: when this thing is officially closed, will you take a day or more? Do you get will you can take any time off come 24 or 48 hours from now or not?
Do you want the real answer or the joke answer?
Real answer.
Because the joking answer was that I'm going to take a beach towel, put it out on somewhere on Pacific Beach, and just not move for a week. But realistically, I'll probably be back in the office the next day, building relationships with all the guys and making sure we continue the success for years to come.
I know 2026, that climb is about to begin on the Mesa. Caleb, great work. We're excited. Obviously, the Aztecs had so much success last year with the 9 wins, and now all these new pieces and all these returning pieces. And I know the work is kind of just beginning for 2026, but I think Sean Lewis said it before, is like, our success next season is going to be based on this critical 6-week period of time. Like, how good we are is based on what we keep, what we add, and where that points us for 2026. So congrats on the successes to this point, and we'll catch up with you again later in the year, all right?
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you for having me on.
All right, again, Caleb Davis, San Diego State's football general manager. That conversation yesterday, the portal closing tonight in college football. We'll take a timeout. Brent's back page on the other side. We're here until 6 on San Diego Sports 760. All right, final time. Get a reminder, we've got Aztec basketball tomorrow at 5. Huge game. San Diego State, New Mexico, maybe for a final time ever in San Diego, certainly in the Mountain West era. 5 o'clock start, 4 o'clock pregame coverage. Again, join us from our pregame location if you're going to the game, and make sure to swing by and say hello because you have a chance to win a signed basketball from Brian Dutcher. You just have to swing by, scan a QR code. You'll be entered for a chance to win that signed basketball from Brian Dutcher. So that's tomorrow, pregame coverage at 4, tip-off just after 5 p.m., and then we'll be celebrating the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday on Monday. So the next show here on San Diego Sports 760 will be on Tuesday. So we hope you enjoy, if you have a long weekend, hope you enjoy the long weekend coming up. But right now, as always, let's get to this.
Where do I want to start today? I guess we'll start with there were some shakeups at Lucasfilm today, John.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Longtime Lucasfilm head Kathleen Kennedy has stepped down, which is undoubtedly making tons of Star Wars fans happy today because she's not very popular. And when parts of the fan base like to blame somebody for like what's wrong with like the current state of like Star Wars and stuff like that, or if something they're not happy with, she's the one that gets all the blame.
Well, what's the current issue by and large? What's the biggest critique of what's been playing out with recent Star Wars?
They got tons of them. Everything from people claiming everything they're trying to do is woke, and it's just there's a whole bunch of stuff. But she's like a famous movie producer. She's produced like the Indiana Jones movies, and like a lot of Steven Spielberg movies, and her name as a producer is attached to just tons and tons of stuff.
But she's out.
She's out. It's been rumored that was gonna happen for a while. She's being replaced by Dave Filoni, which is going to make people happy. He's the guy that he runs the Mandalorian show, which is probably like one of the better things that they've done recently. So he is stepping in, and he's going to be taking over Lucasfilm. So they said kind of give an update on some of the other projects and stuff like that. But
when's the next? Like, what's the next big Star Wars moment?
See, we don't know. There's a Ryan Gosling Star Wars movie, but I don't think it's supposed to come out until like next year or something. That's getting some press here the last couple of weeks because I guess Tom Cruise stopped by set, and I guess he directed a scene just because he was there, and he's Tom Cruise, so he directed some sort of lightsaber duel under the water.
But where are we? Like, the story's been told, so now it's all like offshoots, right? Because there's like the 9 movies. There's not gonna be like a 10th or 11th in the like.
Well, there is, but they're not. There's not supposed to be related. We're supposed to be veering away from everything being Skywalker related, and it's just supposed to be other stories and characters and stuff.
Okay, all right. What else?
Are you a fan of PBR, John?
Professional bull riding or the drink?
I'll take that as a no. No, the drink, the like kind of beer. Yeah, the kind of beer.
Dude, no. I don't really. I'm not a big drinker.
Well, neither am I. But I bring that up because Pabst Blue Ribbon is releasing an epic kaiju-sized 99-pack, which they're calling the Godzilla pack of beer. It's.
How big is that?
It's really
what
big.
you'd expect. Yeah,
it's
like
about
4 cases of beer.
Yeah, it's about the size of like a 2x4 or something.
Right.
But stomping into stores nationwide early 2026 will be the epic 99 pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon Godzilla beer. I guess there's only about 4,000 of the kaiju size offerings being made available. Let's see, how much do they want for that?
Did it exist previously? It says PBR brings back Godzilla 99 pack.
They had that. They actually had like 180 pack one. So PBR's gone big like this before for like special events.
Wow.
So I'm trying to see if they have the price for it. I'm sure.
I mean, how much could that be? Okay, let's seriously. What would your guess be? Because what is let's say a case
PBR
of 24 is
yeah,
15, $20. Would it be like $100?
Probably.
It's about a buck of beer.
And PBR is cheap.
Yeah, but this is like special though.
Well, it's
Maybe
just
they
special
charge a
because you
premium.
get a crap ton of it.
The thing looks massive.
About $100. Yeah,
$100.
they're
that
approximately
seems reasonable.
$99.99.
Yeah. Okay, so a buck of beer, which is expensive for 100.
Well, it's expensive for PBR too.
Yeah, for PBR. Okay. Well, I'm not going to pick that up.
Well, yeah, you never know. Then finally, John, Burger King is testing out a breakfast Whopper.
Okay.
Not in California yet,
Okay.
unfortunately. The test markets right now for the breakfast Whopper are in Raleigh, North Carolina, and Portland. The burger is being called the bacon cheddar hash Whopper. It's got cheese, bacon, a hamburger, I think that's an egg, but it looks like it's a little square thing from the mold, hash browns, and then like a cheese sauce on just the normal bun. It looks pretty good. So yeah, they expect if it does well in test markets, which I guess it's doing really well, it should be out sometime maybe later in the year.
So let me get this straight. It's a breakfast burger.
Yes. I like breakfast burgers.
Do you?
Carl's Jr. has
It's a
one.
breakfast burger. Okay.
Yeah, it's essentially all it is just a burger. They just put hash browns
Hash
on
brown.
it.
Yeah, because hash brown is such a breakfast
Yeah,
food.
but yeah, I like breakfast burgers. At least Carl's
So
Jr. It's just
interesting.
and it kind of looks like they're trying to emulate the breakfast baconator that Wendy's does.
Okay.
Because it's kind of similar to where, the only difference is the breakfast baconator just has sausage and then a bunch of bacon. They don't actually have like a hamburger patty. This looks like it just has a hamburger patty on it.
The breakfast market in fast food seems super competitive because it's like, are you getting people in on coffee? Are you getting people in on sides? Or is it like what gets the consumer? Everyone knows fast food for lunch. Everyone's going to go to fast food for lunch. How do you get people there on their way to work? And that's kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, for me, it's just it's too early for me
To do it at what you're saying at 8 a.m. or something.
Yeah, well, most like I know Wendy's goes until like 10:30.
Oh, I got you. Some others are done early.
But yeah, it's usually 10 or 10:30. But
Yeah.
it's one of those things where if I get up at 8, by the time I take a shower, take the dog out, and everything else, and be like,
past
oh,
the time.
I could go for some breakfast, and I
Yep.
look as like, oh, I got 10 minutes. There's no way in hell I'm gonna make it.
Yeah, I kind of like. I'm not a big fan of menus that are like, oh, it's until 11. Like this is available until 10 a.m. I'm like, I hate that. Like, just put it on the menu. So I like it like a diner where it's on a menu 24 hours a day. Like, I hate walking in somewhere like, oh, that sounds great, and they're like, oh, it's not available right now. I've never liked that. All right, Aztec basketball tomorrow at 5, San Diego State and New Mexico with pregame coverage beginning at 4 p.m. Make sure to join us on San Diego Sports 760. And, of course, you can listen right here. Pregame coverage beginning at 4 p.m. I'll have the call for you beginning at 5 p.m. Have a great long weekend as we'll be back Tuesday celebrating MLK Day on Monday. For Brent, I'm John. Keep it here. This is San Diego Sports 760.